Okay, we're recording on both screens, no less. All right, as always, I am Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran campaign setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, heavily homebrewed to tell our story. And the awesome folks that are surrounding me today are helping me write another chapter in a book. I've got a head cold, so I will try to speak as clearly as I can, and I will try to sneeze and stuff off microphone. So I apologize in advance. It bothers me to listen to someone go on and on as a cold. It literally saps the soul out of me. So I'll try to be as clear as I can be. Let's go ahead and do introductions. This is going to be a fun one tonight. Let's go ahead and start with Danny, please.
Dan McGuffey. I'll be playing Bass tonight and also be running some combat scenes.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you helping me out with that. It's going to be a multifaceted afternoon. Jeremy, go ahead, sir.
I'm Jeremy. I will be playing the giant Seraphim construct slash arcane fortress slash big bad paladin.
Arcane Fortress. Nice. I mean, it gets better and better every time. I love it. Oh shit. Okay, Colby, go ahead, sir.
I'm Colby, and I'll be playing Killtusk. He is a barbarian slash ranger. He's also a native on the islands we are currently at.
Okay.
And he has a beast companion named Loki.
He does, and that's going to be interesting too, because where's Loki going to go during all this? You going to take him down inside that place? You going to keep him up there with you? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So we'll get to that as we get to that. Corey, go ahead.
Yo.
Go.
I'm Corey. I play Darius. He's like in this moment right now where he doesn't know what's next. All he knows is he's not about to get no monkey action.
Poetry as always, Corey. Thank you very much. And last but certainly not least, it's Bella.
I am Bella. I play Silowin, the Maiden of Song Bard turned Avian Skylancer, which is a super rad homebrew class thing.
Awesome. Did you see me smile when she said super rad? Take note, fellas. When you tell your DM that the things you've worked on are super rad, that just warms my heart. It's good stuff. I'm just saying. I have the power to give inspiration. That's it. That's all I'm saying. So, with introductions out of the way, so last time we cut short because of Super Bowl. Who all here actually drank beer and watched the Super Bowl? Raise your hand, please. For those of you that cannot tell, I think me and Bella are the only ones raising our hands and saying we watched this thing. So,
I did like half of what you last listed.
What's that, buddy?
I only did half of what you listed.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Well, your mom made me watch this, so I understand. It's all good. So, we had two things to really kind of tie up and do before we progress forward. And I'm going to move things along a little bit here. But once again, the players know this, and we've talked about it. Stop me at any time. Give yourself, if you want to have a chance to do something theatrical, man, do it. I'm all for it. I love that kind of shit. We had the two things was Bella wanted to go through a scene in which she was waking up and exiting Brahmas and coming back into the real. Okay, and then Darius had chosen to go with the old Ozaman shaman, and what they were going to do is they were going to scope out the exterior of the water temple of Yota, and they were going to see if they were going to be able to find a way to place some frost runes. The idea originally was that maybe there could be some kind of frost bombs or something created of that nature, but the shaman spoke up and said that he had the ability to place a rune that could be triggered on the ground that would be of a similar effect. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Corey, didn't Darius also want to try his lament out on some of these corrupted Ozaman? Ones that seem like they've gotten a little bit too close to this, some kind of dark power that they found in this new home that they're currently residing in. Tell me a little bit more about that, kind of what your goal was there before we jump into giving you your scene, sir.
Yeah, he wanted to do that.
Very good. Very good. And directly to the point. So I love it. I love it. Yeah, all the shit. All the shit. Yeah.
Yeah, he just wants to win, no matter what.
Mhm.
So the gist was that he saw during that test
Yes.
that he tried so hard to not have to do,
Oops.
that the Ozuman had a corruption, and while it doesn't match the corruption that he believes that he has been cursed with, the lycanthropy, he believes that it might help him reconstruct that page that's been missing that he can't find. You know, he knows he created the lament. He knows he was ready to take it to his wife and fix her, but since it's gone, it's, you know, the only thing that's on his mind. So his thought was that he could basically use them as guinea pigs to see if it hurt or helped them, and then determining based on what it did, he will utilize that during the battle.
Okay. So let's go ahead and go through Bella's thing first, and then we'll go on to you, Corey, and we'll make this as elaborate as you want to. I'm prepared to pull up a map and do whatever, or we can go through it with as a visual aid, and you can talk to me about things. We can do some stealth. You guys can decide together when you want to go do that, and I'll give you an explanation of what you see there at the Ozuman's current dwelling. Okay? So just kind of think about what you want to investigate, things like that. Hey, what's up?
What is the time frame that this is happening? All of this stuff.
This would be the night prior to us leaving at right before first light the next morning. So at this point, Brahmas and different people are getting their long rest and things like that. And Corey has decided to go with them. To do this swiftly, maybe he'll have time to get a long rest or at least a partial one. And I don't know if he'll be able to rejoin you all there or meet you on the outskirts of the temple as we all make our way to it. It just kind of depends on what happens while he's there. What's on your mind?
While everybody's there at night, Bass would actually, maybe throw out the idea that the group that's going to sneak in, get in position during the night, get as close to the door as possible with stealth. So when they start rushing down that thing, all they've got to do is get out of the shadows and in and not fight their way by everything.
Okay. Now, I'll just give Valderas
out there like a command. He's throwing it out there like, if it was me and I wanted to sneak in, I would use that distraction. I would put as much ground sneakily while they're down in the cold of the night, and I would make that assault first thing in the morning when they're still cold.
So, having said that, are you telling everybody this as they're getting ready to start the rest and stuff in the main chamber there?
Yes.
Okay. So, if that's the case, let's talk about where everybody is and see how they respond to that. Okay? Because it's not up to me. It's up to you guys. Okay? So, Jeremy, where is Brahmas currently at, either outside or inside of this place? I'll let you make something up where you're planning on taking your long rest. Where have you parked the minivan, sir?
I believe he would have, at the very least, would have been outside the lodge, just standing sentinel as he's taking his rest.
Okay. There's a lot outside the lodge. You want to be underneath of the porch that runs along there? Do you want to be out in the rain area? Do you want to be around the sides or around the front door? Where at?
Basically, he would be situated in such a way that if anything were to come towards the lodge, like from the river or anything else, like the Brazilian had tried to get a case of the ass again, when they come out of that water, he would be the first thing up on the beach that they'd see.
Okay.
It's like their D-Day, and Brahmas is the German watchtowers.
Well, I'll say you're so many feet off of the front porch, and you have found a thorned or a heavy tree that only is letting off big drops of water, and you're standing underneath of it in the shadows of the night, standing halfway between the riverbank and the front porch, kind of up against underneath of the tree. Okay? Colby, as this is winding down and you know that Darius has just headed outside to go on this venture with the Ozaman shaman, Bastille steps up and mentions this. Now that we've discussed who's going where, he's suggested, hey, maybe the people that are going at night need to go ahead and sneak in and things of this nature. What is your response to that, and where are you currently?
I think it'll be by the axe beak because Loki, because we know that Loki was always making sure that it was all right, and I just wanted to, and Kiltusk would want to be there with Loki.
Okay, that sounds good. And like I say, Loki was over there kind of protecting at the time. So, having heard what Bastille has offered, do you have a response, or you need a minute to ponder it?
Probably a minute.
Okay, I'll say you're looking around and see if anyone else speaks up and says anything in this moment. Let's go ahead and talk to, let's say, Valdera. Okay, when you offer this. Valdera is still cleaning up pieces of what they have collected and wrapping up her papers off that central table and going through and counting up some supplies and things like that when you offer this up. And when you do, you would hear a couple jars click together and the rustling of leather and chain as she would kind of look over her shoulder. And she would look at you almost with a sarcastic kind of mouth agape, with an arched eyebrow. And she goes, you do realize that if we sneak out there now, 1, we don't rest much. 2, it's storming. She goes, in 3, everybody comes if one person does. She looks over at Kiltusk and goes, we're going to have to clear a path for those people to get inside there.
If the others that are coming with me are good, we have the rain, the night. The rain's going to cover our sound. The night is going to cover our sight, their sight. And on top of that, the rain's going to chill them, make them slower. If I can sneak them by a bunch of them before the assault starts, they'll go by us without ever seeing us. All we got to do is get high enough to hide so that when you assault, it draws them off, and then we can make a break for the door.
Valdera looks over at Rursi and Karsu and Chikoma and Baraxel to see what they may have to say about this. Chikoma, now inspired to actually be the leader of this group, as she rightfully should be, is the first one to speak up. And she looks right and left of everybody, and she takes a deep breath, and she's getting ready to give you what you think is the answer you're wanting, Bastille, right? But she looks over at Rursi, and she looks at the Axbeak, and she just kind of looks around the room for a minute, and looks at Kiltusk, and he's in the middle of doing some painting and stuff like that. Also, we discussed. She goes, let us at least have some time to prepare before we go. The night is long here. They should have time to at least finish their preparations. But I agree with you. It would be best if we were as unseen as possible. We can take our vengeance out on them and slaughter them when we have our full forces. But for now, battle is not the way we win this. And she gives you a nod, Bastille, for saying that. Baraxel would kind of sarcastically grunt, but would not disagree. as he would walk across the room and sit down and take off those large bone claws that he wears and start sharpening them as he's sitting down in the corner. Rursi would stand up and walk past Shikoma and lay a hand on her shoulder gently and say in whispered words, "Thank you." Knowing that that respite was only given because Shikoma saw the weakness in some of her warriors, right? Let's see here. Who else we want to deal with? Who else we got in here, guys? Help me remember. We've got, I think that pretty much covers that. Kiltusk, after Shikoma has said these things, you're in the middle of painting and stuff like that. Have you decided which spells you're putting on for the following day already? Because if not, that's something you need to actually make sure you have down, okay?
Yeah, I have them.
Okay, cool. You can surprise me. It'll be fun. Just I want to make sure that you have them at the ready. And you remember how to activate them, what that takes, if it's a bonus action or major action, all those kind of things. Just look through that in your downtime. All right, boss?
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to seeing you stick holes in shit, sir. It's going to be good. So, Bastille or Kiltus, go ahead. Do you have a response yet, or are you just kind of just feeling at the room and not really adding anything? Do you think it's enough's been said, or do you have any input?
Because that's the probably thing enough has been said.
Okay. And mind you, I don't mean to keep harping on you, but I want to give you guys the option. You know what I'm saying? With that, Bastille, it seems like they've met you halfway on this. Now, we're going to know how much Valdera hates you based on one of my favorite things. It's the 1d10 roll brought to you by Jeremy Keaton. Jeremy, we're going to need that 10 roll. 10, it's pouring rain. 1, it is finally dried up, and you're going to be the hero of this group. A 2. A 2. I'm writing this in big letters. No more fucking rain for a little bit. That's outstanding. So help me keep track of that, everyone. We are going to say there's it's such a heavy mist in the air. It's almost like you can see it, and you can move your hand through, and you see the water vapors trace behind your hand. It's like that heavy dew in the mornings or at night, but there is no actual rain falling. Just the distance knocking of heavy drops from leaf to leaf as it finds its way to the jungle floor in the distance. That's the weather conditions for the rest of the night. Okay?
Bass would actually rub his head as the rain starts to settle, thinking that's probably not going to be as advantageous as what he wanted. He wanted cloud cover, and
your DM has adjusted. We're all good. Okay. So, having said all that, was there anything else, Bastille, you wanted to speak up and do real quick before I move on?
he'd probably put his hand on Valdera's shoulder and tell her to be careful in the morning.
She doesn't look up at you. She looks over at your hand on her shoulder, and she looks back down at Wrathhaven as she's staring at the levelness of it as she has it on the floor. As she's kind of camped down along the side where you put your hand on her shoulder, she goes, "You just make sure I don't have to stay out there too long and get done what you need to do. Because you take care of that, I'll take care of even nods a little bit."
I'll get him in. What goes on in there? He says his Brahma's going in with us. He's going in, right?
She looks over at the doorway and looks back at you and says, I think that all just depends.
He says, I know you could use him on the outside, but I know that library he's got up there is going to be handy in a celestial temple.
She looks at you and she goes, so you're assuming there won't be anything inside the temple to fend off? And she has a kind of a smirk on her face and grins as she looks at you with that. What do you say?
Well, generally in enclosed spaces with walls and shadows, I do very well.
She just kind of nods. Insight check. I want to see if you're trying to bullshit her with a fake confidence. Dirty 19. Do you believe in yourself right now, or are you just trying to feed her a line of shit to make it okay?
She could tell if he seems nervous, it's more about the people that aren't as equipped to go into darkness as he is.
Okay.
Maybe as he said it, he might have glanced over at his shoulder at them nervously.
She says, the reason that dictates her answer to you. When you do that, she is going through her stuff there. She sits down the sword for a minute and she gets out that lantern that Tamara gave her. And she goes over and she lights it up and she hangs it up on a shelf above where she's going to try to get some shut eye and rest against a wall for a little bit. And she positions herself where the light will shine down on the top of her head. She says, either way, if he's going in there with you, I need to have my A game. And she crosses her own arms and she goes, good night, Bastille. And just kind of harshly ends the conversation and goes over and rests and crosses her arms up around herself and kind of puts her head into her side. Has her sword leaning on one shoulder, sitting up against the wall, with her knees pulled up, and the light of that lantern shining down on top of her head. You know what that means. Many people don't.
He would get it. After that, he'd walk over to the darker corner away from the door. Kind of where the fireplace is, so that the fireplace is in front of him, so he would be looking. So something would have to look through the light and wouldn't be able to see him in the darkness if it came in the door. He puts his hood down and goes into trance.
Okay, cool. I like it. All right. So, is that too loud for everybody, or is that okay? Like it? I like it too. Okay. Silouan, describe to us what you do in your ritual when you are leaving Brahmas the next day, or if you even are leaving. Just tell me what you're doing. I want to give you your chance to come out of Brahmas, have a conversation, and find out what everybody's up to. Okay? Mm-hmm. And this is your chance to do that. Now, I've already discussed with you where Brahmas is. So, when you do decide to wake, there's that interesting effect of when you are asleep in a house with storming outside. And then it seems to part ways. And the way it sounds out in the wilderness is kind of what you would hear on the inside of here echoing around. Not much rain, but heavy drops, and every once in a while falling from groups of trees as if the wind has blown them out. There's a lot of heavy water held up in the outside of this place. And you can hear that as you kind of wake up to that sound in your own personal chamber. What is Silouan doing at this moment?
So I think that she is, waking up, I think for the first time in a while, fairly well rested. And she's sort of like, looking around a little bit, because I think from the minute that she kind of lost her memories to the point that it is, this has literally kind of been a little bit of sort of like a little oasis to a degree. Because immediately after losing her memories, she was overstimulated and she didn't know what was going on, and she didn't recognize people. But now she's kind of feeling a little bit more comfortable in her own skin, and she knows that she has to leave the space because she could help out with Brahmas, but not very well. And she knows that, she probably would be more useful on the outside.
Okay.
So I think there's a little bit of anxiety, but she knows I need to join the rest of the world. So I think she kind of soaks it up kind of one last time, and then kind of treks down to track down Merc, because he needs to open the gate.
Okay.
Open the stairwell.
And just as a side thing, we know that you have... Describe to me that item you found again that lets you communicate with Ignatius, possibly.
So the thing that I found was the spell scroll of sending, where I can, I think, communicate with, anyone on any plane it was. But I don't know how many uses. It was just sort of like a thin, kind of frail piece of paper where, should I need it, I could communicate with somebody. I think more like a text message when it's like X amount of characters.
Okay. And you had a couple different ideas about how you would want to use that. Just remember you have that on your person. And was there anything in particular that you were looking for the room within the room before you leave it? I just want to give you that last chance to say, "Damn it, I wish I'd had them paper clips." Just whatever you can imagine before you leave.
I mean, I don't think she can actually bring out a whole lot of stuff. I think it's more kind of things that she can use in this kind of space rather than, oh, let me grab this thing and I can use it out. Like in the real world, I think a lot of this stuff has to stay, including her little jar of dirt. And I think, she just needs to, she knows that she can't really bring stuff. I think maybe some of the stuff, because we said it was sort of like combined through the memories a little bit, that some of the stuff started popping up.
Correct.
So I think there's like maybe a book that she read when she was little in the avian city that she knows very well is not actually here, but it's like that sort of like those
A
little
comfort
points of
thing.
comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of soaking up that sort of safe space, the little oasis when she knows like I can't stay here forever, unfortunately. So just kind of indulging in those little things before, she knows I gotta go type thing.
Awesome. Okay, Merc. As she is making her way from her room, and she is, I think, descending down the central large stairway that seems to go off in all kinds of different directions. Some stairways just fade off into nothingness and light. Some go into blank walls. Some are constantly shifting. But you've been here enough where you know how to navigate through this plane, this interior, evolving and moving castle-like plane of existence that is inside of Brahmas. As you're navigating your way down through that, is it safe to assume that Merc is in a chambers sleeping, or did you fall asleep at a chair doing some research? Where would you be currently, sir?
Well, following in flavor with the whole Century's Rest thing, and since Merc is a spirit, I don't think he really necessarily needs to sleep, but Promise has to be inactive in order to repair itself.
Right.
So I would think that he's sitting next to the semblance of a fire, probably reading a book at every little bit, kind of looking out the window out of Promise's visor, just to maintain his focus on anything coming up
Okay.
in front of him.
I like it. I like it. And you would be glad to see that the rain has died down a little bit.
Finally turn the wiper blades down just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Just, low. Turn them on low. With that, you hear Sylvan approaching from a distance. She's armored. She's collected her stuff up. You can hear the boots upon the stone as they echo, and she comes through. You two go ahead and have your interaction here. Have we decided how it is you exit this place? Because we decided it was neat if there was a portal that opened and there was a stairway that looked like the stairs that are inside of this place that would lead up, and you would come out of like a portal that is on the ground practically when you're walking down into and coming out of Brahmas. So however, let's put you on the spot here, Jeremy. However you want to open that up inside of him, since you're the one that knows him better than most, I'll let you two have that interaction and you can open that up for her, okay?
So I want to go ahead and establish coming into Brahmas. It's like she's walking down a set of stairs and then she finds herself on the spiral staircase coming down.
Yeah.
But to go out of Brahmas, it's going to be like I picture he's got the main station that he operates with the windows, and then he's got a wall behind it.
Okay.
And he's ready to leave. He would kind of place his hand on that wall, and you would see basically like the old like a glowing almost banner of the kingdom that he was the paladin for before he died.
Okay, cool.
And then with that wall would kind of flash and disappear, and then there'd be a staircase going up.
Okay, cool. All right, so that would be what would happen. Do you need any other interaction? Is there anything you wish to say to him before you leave, Silwyn?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
For sure. I think, she's like, okay, all right, here I go. And then she begins to sort of walk up. And I think maybe she gets up like 2 steps a bit before she kind of like pauses. And then she turns around and she gives kind of Merc a hug, but kind of like the sort of hug when it's like, you're giving your dad a hug when you're going away to college, like that sort of like,
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
yeah, like so that sort of thing. And then she's like, all right, so we've established we're in this together now. If you get called to that place again, I'm coming with you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have this. And then I think she holds up the little sending spell. I will call your boss and I will tell her to grab me. I don't care. If this
and
if
that
it
is true. She has seen Belendal, so now she can cast Ascending to
Yep.
him.
So,
Dude, that's a good point. I'm glad you reminded me of that. I didn't think of that. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's anybody you've seen.
I know.
yeah, it's the equivalent of like tell your dad that you'll tell grandma that you've messed up or something like that.
Damn, that's
And
awesome.
it's like, I don't know how many uses, and I will save this for emergencies, but if it is a single use, I will use it on that. And she does like that type thing, and she's like, watching you, okay? If you just go out of commission for a little while, I'll know what's going on. So then I think she kind of like gives a little thumbs up, and then she kind of jogs her way up the stairs.
For everyone watching, what she said there was she's going like this. So yeah. If I could make your animated person do that, I would just retire. It'd be good shit. But that's
Yeah.
what she's. Yeah. It's all good. Okay, your response, Merc.
Stay close. I will see you soon.
I think you kind of hear like in a distance, like, will do, like the equivalent of like going upstairs, like the, all right.
Oh goodness.
All right, Dad, you can go now.
All right. Yeah.
And then
All
I
right.
think once she kind of breaks out into kind of the upper world, she'll kind of like step out a little bit further away from Brahmas to give sort of room, kind of do a big stretch of her one wing.
Nice.
Kind of feel like take in a deep breath because she's breathing in actual real air as opposed to kind of the Brahmas space. Feel the dewdrops on her skin, and she's going to vault.
Where to?
Just up to sort of, the stretching out her wing and sort
Oh,
of
okay.
getting a feel.
Okay. I'm like, are we
just,
roosting
like-
in the trees? What are we doing here? Okay. No, it's all
she
good.
just like vaults kind of straight up, kind
Just
of
to
at
get your-
the peak of it.
That's cool. Just the limber up. I get it. Just for the hell of it, roll an acrobatics or athletics check. Let's see how you do.
Okay. So that, and let me have her character sheet open here. He said it was.
Remember, acrobatics you'd be proficient with.
Mhm.
Athletics.
Rolled that's Dex, right? So Dex is +4. I rolled a 13, so that's 17. And do I add anything to
I
that?
think if it's proficiency bonus, I think is that you. I think the Skylancer is strength and charisma, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, you add your proficiency bonus. No, I'm sorry, dexterity and charisma, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it'd be
charisma, dexterity.
okay. So it'd be a 21.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You do a very good job of it, and you are able to see that, as the sun is starting to set, it's beautiful out here, especially in this little bit of an opening. You can see out in the distance. As you jump up, you actually do catch a little bit of a glance of a redness peeking through the clouds off in the distance as the volcano of Volaton becomes apparent to you just for a brief moment as the clouds blow by it. And as you land, you do the hero landing, the Marvel Avengers landing. You feel rejuvenated and ready to rock and roll. You see Brahmas just kind of standing there underneath the tree, silently, doing nothing. Are you headed into the cabin, or where are you headed at this point?
So I think that she is going to take note that can she see Brahmas's new fun decals on his? Because didn't the shaman do some?
Yes.
So she's going to take a mental note of that to be like, oh, right, I forgot we can decorate him. Okay, so like mental note.
Christmas. Yeah.
Of like, oh, right, we can pimp out the outside of Brahmas, give him a little bit more flavor should need
Pimp
be.
My Brahmas, the new MTV show. Everybody's going to be
Um,
wanting to watch. I like it.
And then I think, aside from that, is Rowdy out here?
Sure. There's a
So I-
pond that was about 25 yards to the southwest of that place on the map, and Rowdy would be over there drinking water out of that currently.
So I think that, she is still kind of adjusting. I don't think she fully remembers her interactions with Rowdy beforehand.
Yeah.
That she's putting together that he is with kind of the rest of the crew and that they are friendly. So I think she's going to go over and kind of like approach him and then kind of offer her hand out.
Roll an animal handling check, please.
Sure. See, that animal handling is wisdom, which is +1. I rolled a 17, so 18.
Very good. The large creature, as you go up to it, and you hold your hand out for a minute, is large, and I don't want to call the creature grotesque, but it is not a pretty animal, but it is mighty and large. And you know that all those girls that were part of the Mains of Song have never seen shit like this. Nor would they be... You have a bit of that tomboy about you, and we've discussed that. And you can't help but think to yourself, they would never be here.
Mm-hmm.
They would never be doing this. And they sure as hell would hold their noses up to a creature like this. And as you do, and you look into the eye of Rowdy, on the side of him, and you see the claw marks that are starting to heal that came down the front of his head from Displacer Beast claws. Roll me a wisdom check, please. And just 1d20 plus your wisdom modifier, and tell me what you get.
Okay. 14.
Okay. With the 14, you get quick flashes of what these eyes on Rowdy look like when he was angry and on black sand beaches just days ago. Hours ago. No, it was a day ago. Fighting off Displacer Beasts. And as your hand kind of goes up the side and your fingers easily go over some of the filleted skin and stuff and the thick, hairy muzzle of this creature, and you kind of release your grasp a little bit from it as not to disturb the wound, you have a memory of him with Displacer Beast just hanging on him and this creature thrashing back and forth violently. And it excites you for just a minute. You can see that eye larger, intense, like an animal is when it's in dire straits, you know what I'm saying? And it's amazing that creature could be that ferocious. And yet this passive lapping up water with 100 pound avian petting it on the head. It's a very neat dynamic that you're in the middle of right here. Okay? So you do remember, if you want to note that down, the true strength of Rowdy. And you remember him fighting those Displacer Beasts on the Black Sand Beach.
I think that, out of all of the hostility that she felt immediately after kind of her little mental reset, I think having the break in the comfort space, having the comfort of Merc and Brahmas, having this kind of newfound drive with Velendal, because I think that is a degree of a new source of this is a thing that's going on and I can help with it. And I think just having this kind of positive interaction, I think she is feeling a degree of a relief and sort of a rallying of I can navigate this.
Yeah, I got
and
this.
Then I think she kind of goes hey, you're a good boy. You're a good boy. Cool.
Nice.
And then and then sort of kind of maybe raking kind of her fingers through her hair real quick, kind of pulling it out of her face, and then heading towards the lodge.
Okay, so to expedite this to a degree, because I want to go ahead and get on to Darius's thing, I will leave it up to Valdera and Bastille And Colby, if you want to, you can be a part of this too, or I could have it be Shakoma, are going to get Silwyn caught up to what the plan is so far. Is that fair? So I don't have to go through all of this again. We've kind of talked about it. Bella, you've been there. You've heard it, you know. If you want to go through it for a certain reason, if there's something particularly you'd like to say to one of these people, or you have maybe a different idea. But is that okay if I kind of go through that briefly? Is everybody on board with that?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, I think kind of whatever the sort of deal is, she kind of has an idea. She kind of gets the speed that this is a big deal and this is a big thing that's happening. And she doesn't quite know what they're going to encounter, but she knows that she's going to stick by Brahmas wherever he may be placed.
Okay. So, having said that, Danny, and you guys remind me, I'm going to write this down because I don't. Me so outside, hold on. Inside. Okay. So, Silwyn, after hearing about the different details of what is going on, that there's going to have to be the scion that is going to the inside, can everyone kind of remind me who's going where? Who's going to keep the battle to the outside? And who's going to dive into the inside to try to help solve this puzzle to reawaken the temple and get it functioning again? So I remember Danny was inside. I remember Kill Tusk was definitely outside.
If I recall, it was Brahmas inside because of the connections to the Seraphim, and then Darius outside?
Darius, were you wanting to stay outside or go inside, sir?
So we're talking about right before I left,
Yes.
or are you talking about at the fight?
Right before you left, people were deciding if they were wanting to be part of the team that went inside and navigated the internal parts of the place, or if people were going to be part of the forces that will hold off the Vizillion and remain on the outside for as long as they could.
So I would say it depends on the Ozaman. If the leader of the Ozaman's like, I'm out, like Darius was following him.
Okay, so I'm going to put you in the middle here. Okay. Jeremy, you've not been privy to any of this conversation yet, have you? In game?
I think so.
Okay, we'll decide that in the morning then for you. And you decided, what was it, Bella?
That she's going to go wherever Brahmas goes. And I think, if I remember correctly, that was inside, but I'm not entirely sure. But wherever Brahmas is placed, she will be alongside him.
Okay. So, that can be a conversation you two can have the next morning as well. Because if I can see where, like, Ramos is like, no, I don't want you to babysit and, go outside and be useful. But at the same time, he can be like, no, stay in here with me and we're going to use this and unlock things. I can see it going either way depending on how Jeremy wants to play it. Okay? So give that some thought, okay, boss? I believe that inside was going to be the Scion. And can anyone remember what Baraxel decided to do? The druid, was he outside or was he inside, standing by the Scion's side? You guys remember?
He's inside because he wanted me to lead the charge outside.
Well done. Okay, cool. So that would definitely mean that Shakoma was outside. Correct? With you?
I think so.
Okay. Celine was wanting to be outside because she was showing how she can transform and make herself appear to be an Ozaman and a Vizillion, and was going to have fun playing those games on them and tricking them back and forth and trying to make confusion. Okay? Can you guys see me still? It shows my internet was a little bit fuzzy. Is everybody good with me? Okay. Yep. I just heard thunder in the distance. There's a big storm wave.
I may or may not get booted off because it's right over my head right now.
Yep. So if that happens, this will be a short video. But we'll do what we can. But like I say, if it cuts out and shit, we'll try to fix it. If it keeps going on because of the heavy storm, we'll just do it some other time because nature is nature, you know. So, if it starts getting laggy, someone just give me a sign, okay? Let's see. Rursi was going to stay behind the cleric. Okay. She is going to stay behind as a tether, and her and the Scion seem to have worked out some kind of plans where she wants to be a tether for her, a source of information that she can be reached from a distance. And Rursi is still feeling pretty rough from everything that she went through before. Like I say, D&D healing says she's fine. Theatrically, she just got smacked in the tail by a huge Vokilikon, and she's not going to be okay today no matter what we do in game. Okay? So, she's still roughed up quite a bit. Who's that leave? We got Kiltusk, Celine, Shakoma on the outside. We've got Bast and Brahmas on the inside. Valdera's outside. Yep. We've got Bast, Brahmas, Baraxel, and the Scion are on the inside. We've got, well, possibly Brahmas. We've got Rursi and Darius are kind of up in the air. Rursi probably will stay behind. Darius depends on the Ozaman. And Siluan depends on Brahmas. God, is that everything? Piece of cake. D&D's fun, right? Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, so please do me the honor of remembering your personal plot and all this shit, because that's a lot. I've got some notes written down here. Wow. Okay, so just kind of help remind me when the time comes. Okay? So, having said that, let's go ahead and jump into Darius's situation. Okay? I think we've taken care enough on the hunting cabin side of it. Now I want to do that. I can't breathe through my nose. Give me 1 second. Oh yeah, I can talk Wookiee, sir. Make no mistake. Whew. Yeah. You ever seen the skit where Harrison Ford's on I think it was Jimmy Kimmel, and him and Chewbacca are having an argument? Have you ever seen that one? And Chewbacca's like, whoo! And Harrison goes, "You son of a bitch." And the two start fighting. It's one of my favorite things. It's really good. I watch it at least once a weekend. So, having said all that fun stuff, let's go ahead and get into Darius's trek. Okay, so you are leaving the cabin and you are walking beside the large Ozaman shaman. You have passed the test. You've seen that this creature seems to speak broken common. And you haven't really heard any of the other Ozamen up to this point say anything that remotely sounds like common. It seems to just be a him kind of thing. And as old as he is, his limbs are so large and strong, Corey. And he does walk with his back legs down and his middle set of arms as fists on the ground like a gorilla does when it's angry. And the other two arms, one holds a staff and helps guide him, as the other one just kind of tucks away, or is his finicky thing where he grabs a token and looks at it. He's always grabbing random stuff with that fourth arm and looking at it and looking up at the stars and navigating and doing things like this. And you guys are walking away from the hunting lodge and you are heading northwest away, which takes you along that same river that you traveled in here for quite a little bit of a distance. He's made it known to you from the conversation back at the previous spot that there is a way that we will be able to travel to the place where his people are temporarily encamped, okay? But we just have to travel a little bit to get there first. Is there anything that you would want to be mentioning or saying to this humanoid being as you have a few moments to do so before you arrive at this place where he plans to cast this spell?
Yeah, I want to tell him stop grabbing my junk without asking first. How long's the trek? He said.
Oh, let's say 12 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say like, I'd imagine, like the first like 10 minutes or so, he's kind of mostly looking over the Ozaman and kind of watching his mannerisms, checking out any random bits and baubles he has on him to just get an idea of what he seems to take pride in, right?
Okay.
It's definitely as a bard who's pretty insightful. I think that one of the first things Darius does is try to see what he can use against someone in the need to persuade them.
Smart. Very smart. Do you have the ability to identify magic items, Corey?
Probably not.
Okay. This is a chance where he's like, sure? He's like, bullshit your DM day. Here you go.
No. Mm-mm. I do not have detect magic.
I just got rocked of thunder. Colby, did you get that too?
I thought you rolled for no rain.
I know, no shit, right? I just need to record the outside. I think, what are we, about 17 miles apart, Colby? If that, because you're halfway between here and the school.
Yeah.
So if we both go out, shit's real. So go ahead and roll. I'll let you, I would say it's perception to watch him, or if you have something else you'd like to roll, you can do that, and you just gotta convince me. Oh, goodness.
I actually got to pull it up on the app because...
While you're looking for that, I'm going to go get Vic Sav and put on my nose because this is about intolerable. So Go ahead and look at that and talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, let's talk smack about the DM. Yeah, I actually have to use... there's a robot thingy in Google? That's what I'm using today because I've packed my dice away since I'm moving at the end of this month. And I'm proactive packing now.
I went to get on D&D Beyond. I had a banner pop up talking about digital dice sale. And they got a one that said it's like
last chance for all dice, $5. But come on. Did you really buy digital dice?
The Mythic Dice set is the one.
Hold on.
It's today's the last day for it. And it's animated dice. When you get a nat 20, all the other, like it pulls apart and all the other numbers flip over to reveal just the 20.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
So
it feels like Brahmas.
Right? No, I'm looking at it now. Oh, I like how in their marketplace you can roll it too to kind of see it from all sides.
Also, apparently got some fuzzy dice, which is hilarious. I have yet to ever see those.
Oh shit!
Just pink fuzzy dice. I'll just have to make a character around those.
Oh, this Elder Heart dice. They look cool, but I just don't want to pay money for something that all it's going to take is for D&D Beyond to go, we're no more. And now you don't have those.
So
I prefer physical dice.
All I can think of is this episode has been brought to you by D&D Beyond and Vicks Vape Rub.
Right. You got me over here sniffling now.
I know it's contagious. Okay. It's a virus.
Right.
I'd like to make a quick disclaimer that we are not sponsored at all in any way, shape, or form.
Hey,
or paid for our efforts.
If Vicks Vape Rub would like to pick us up, I'm just saying. So, anyway.
Okay. So, basically, I am saying I would like to use insight because I'm perceiving to be insightful. Like the goal is to get a vibe of what makes him prideful. Because I can look all day at him physically, right? But it's the insight part that I think matters to what I can use against him.
Okay, so perception to see him is not the issue. You're being
Correct.
insightful as to, now that you've located him, what kind of things is he in the middle of? Yes, sweetie. What's
What cup do you want?
You can use this one. Here you go. You gotta rinse it out. Thank you. Yeah, insight is fine. Go ahead and tell me what you get with your amazing bonuses, Darius.
Okay, that's a 25.
Like I thought. Danny McGuffey rolls. It's all good. So, you two one
I'd
day
rather
could
take
have.
those rolls than my normal ones.
What's that, buddy?
I'd rather take Denny McGuffey rolls than my normals.
I know. One day you too can have Danny McGuffey rolls. So, with a 25, there's a couple things that you discern from watching him along this stroll. First off, he seems to be nervously watching how much time is left. He is consistently looking and using the stars and the moon to make decisions about something that he is nervous about. Okay? That's the first thing you get with a 15. With a 20, this, because you got a 25, that's going to be awesome. I was hoping someone would figure this out. This does it. Thank you for this, by the way. This helps me a lot. With the 20, you could see that you weren't able to discern it before, but you've noticed those big, black, thick, mitt-like hands that he has. There seems to be some kind of intricate writing tattooed on them, a little bit darker than the actual fingers themselves, as if he has been branded. You know how you'll see the, and I don't know what nationality or I don't know who does the kind of tattooing, but it's with that bones piece, and they go through and they poke and do those kind of ritualistic dot-like tattoos.
Yeah.
He has those
An
on
Asian
him.
culture thing.
Yeah, and when you look at him, they're decorated around his facial parts and around the tops of his hands. Have these very similar marks too. You know that there are a lot of things that can be imbued upon a person permanently by using such methods. The third thing that you would notice is that he seems to have some kind of charm. And if you remember me talking to you, he has things that sound like wind chimes that kind of hangs on his staff, and he has little bells and trinkets and things that dangle around him. And he has one thing that doesn't look that primitive. He seems to have on his hand. It's a ring. Okay? And the ring, it looks kind of like a yin-yang, but instead of it being a yin-yang, it's two faces talking to one another. Whereas the top part of it has a mouth and eyes overlaps the bottom part, and the bottom part overlaps the other. It's two talking faces that are intertwined. With a 25, roll a history check with advantage.
Rolling. Keep that mug rolling. It doesn't matter. It's a 5 and a 6 plus a 5 or a 6 plus my history of 4. So it's a 10.
Okay, a 10 is basic.
Yeah. I got a basic biatch.
Yes. You get the feeling that this is one of the reasons that he is able to speak common. This item gives him the ability, somehow. From the symbol on it, from something in your memory seems to trigger this. But that's as much as you can discern with a 10. The insight to identify it was great. But knowing what that is once you've made it out and stuff like that. So that's your 3 things you get from that walk.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So like as I'm kind of looking over him and stuff, so I am curious, where did this corruption that your people are dealing with come from?
As he's walking, he kind of looks down and looks forward a little bit, and as he takes a prideful deep inhale and looks up, and you can see those cataracts kind of eyes with the blue haze in them. He looks and he stops for a minute. He looks over at you and he takes his staff and he draws out a large circle. And in the middle of it, he does like a swirl symbol. And he points that large black finger down into the center of it. He looks over at you and he says, when the crescent cradle fell and broke, things were unleashed, forgotten, ancient, evil things. We do what we can. We're just trying to survive. But the further we go, the safer we are. The darker it grows. We must hurry. Is there anything else? That's his response to that.
Have you not? What? He said before, or someone said before, how long that the cradle broke, right?
Yeah. So Danny and I have been trying to work out a timeline, right? And it's all based on this. It's all based on what we were trying to decide is does Kill Tusk remember when it was broken, or was he born after it had been broke? And I want to say that it's been at least 75 years. And here's why. Okay? And I'll say this is kind of common sense. We've done a lot of talking about this back at the hunting lodge. For one reason is I would like for Colby's character to have been born in the aftermath when the Atleti people were dwindling and trying to survive, and he was born into that chaos. Okay? So he's been learning things about what it was like in the golden era of them way before his time, but yet all he has seen of that is like just glimpses and shadows of what the Atleti formerly used to be. It also sets up with the timeline of the older people that had something to do with summoning the Tarask. The last time the bird was around. 75 years sounds like a very good number. Now, we may have to move that up or down a few, but we'll stick with that for now. Okay?
Yeah, I just need to because... So it's been, what, 50, 60, some odd years? And how far have your people been pushed into that corruption? Is the creature that we fought the worst that we would see, or is there worse that comes about that?
Okay, and when you reference the creature that we've seen, which one are you referencing there, Corey? I don't know.
So the one we fought that had the horns and that sucked us in and blew us real good. Basically, he's questioning, like think if you were to explain the gestation through the corruption, how corrupt they get and how quickly they get corrupt.
Okay. So he thinks on that for a long moment. And he says, he takes one hand and another hand up as he leans his staff into his shoulder, pushes himself up a little taller with the two lower arms, and holds the other two hands up and intertwines the fingers like this. And as he does that, he looks over to the right arm. And one says, how do I want to put this to you? I'm trying to decide how you would translate this and put this into words. Because he's not quite sure himself, Corey. And you would see that hesitation in him. He has trouble finding the words to express it to you, right?
You could just go, oh.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That'd make me a shitty DM. So... so he says, 1/2 is the strength for the need of survival. He looks over at the other arm and he tenses it. You can hear knuckles cracking. It's almost like he has cerebral palsy, like he tremors a bit in this other arm when he does this. And he says, and that darkness smells the fear of the other hand, and so lends it. And he shakes his hand like this. Like, that's how they're joining. So, to put it in layman's terms, he's saying, their fears and their needs to find a place to hide this out and wait this out. This, whatever this is down inside this place, this darkness, this power, is feeding off of that and giving them what they think they need. That's what you would get from that conversation. He continues to trek onward.
Before I ask it in character, really the gist of what he's trying to mostly understand, and if the Oseman can't really explain it, then that makes sense. But so if 75 years ago the Crescent Cradle fell, and then that's when the corruption was unleashed, is the corruption like an entity that grabs on and fucks them up, or is it something that gets into them and slowly builds? Type of thing.
As you try to ask that, do me a favor. Mm-hmm. Roll me some kind of check to see if you're able to convey that question properly. That's complicated for him. So you can either do a performance, you can do a persuasion, whatever you think, and roll me a roll. Let's see how well you're able to convey that question, because that's complex for this guy.
So as far as the point goes, it doesn't matter because I have the same in both.
Okay.
I guess I would say it'd be a performance, because seeing that he talks with his hands, I would try to match his body language, so to speak.
Maybe you'd speak a little bit broken too, trying to use things so he can understand. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got a 15.
15 total.
Yeah.
Okay. He to the best he understands, he believes it's something that once it gets a hold of you, it holds on and grows.
Okay. So it takes time.
Yes. Almost, and we can talk about this metagaming. It's almost like radiation poisoning.
Yeah. And metagaming wise, like, the reason I'm asking is he's trying to decide or to decipher, like, when we go to this person's place.
Yeah.
Because he's going to play the tune and be watching each stage of that life cycle of that, because he knows that there are moments in when it comes to lycanthropy that you might be able to change someone quicker because they haven't been cursed, as long. Or
I get it. Yeah, sure. Wanting to gauge it based on the level of corruption based in them, and I get you. Makes sense.
Yeah. So
through that questioning, as best as you could, does that kind of scratch the itch you're trying to reach, bud?
Yeah, and then he would follow up with a final question. Does the corruption, does it kill your kind, or do they just become...
He stops for a minute, and you would see his eyes glaze over a little bit. hit a nerve of something personal to him here. And although he was trying to trudge on, he stops yet again. He turns to you quickly. He snaps his head around more so and has more of a frown on his face than it's surprising to a degree. And as crippled as this thing is, it is a mighty creature. For it to kind of whip around and look at you like that with those eyes, it's startling to a moment, for just an instant. He looks at you and he says, "Time is growing short. We must go." That could be a yes. That could be a big yes answer to what you just asked, but it's a little bit too close to home for him to talk about with you.
Can I insight check?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
All right. You better roll a fucking. Okay, it's not too.
You better roll. You tell me what to roll.
It's 18.
It's an 18.
Yeah.
And you want to know, are you talking about bullshit level 1 to 10? What do you want to know here, boss?
Yeah, so obviously, like, meta speaking, you said it hit a nerve, right?
Yeah,
So-
yes, absolutely. Well, your character could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not meta. That's all good.
And so, like, I'm kind of like looking him up and down just to gauge, is that nerve I'm trying to fix this because, yes, it's killing my kind, or, like, or something, like, no, it's not killing them, it's just making them fucked up. Like,
18. 18.
Okay.
He knows, you can tell, he personally has a knowledge of somebody that's either beyond the control of it or time has ran out for them.
Perfect. That's
He
all I need
doesn't
to
want
know.
he doesn't want to see it anymore. So when you
Yep.
see that to him, and I think that's about as vague and good as I can give you.
No, that's perfect, because as soon as like, I hit that chord,
Evacuation.
and as soon as I hit that chord and I see that, and he says we must go, I agree. I too am on mission to save a loved one from a corruption of sorts. I will help you and your kind if I can.
He just kind of frowns up and squints his eyes a little bit. Proudly kind of squinches his face up a little bit, looks up at the moon and looks over at you and gives you an acknowledging, stubborn type nod. And then continues forward. Okay?
Yep.
So, as you make your way on through there, you would see a large tree alongside of the riverbank that's very similar to the one that you saw the boats that were underneath when you first went into this dense part of Tenosia. Okay? Now, oh, by the way, when you sneeze and blow your nose and you get Vicsav on your lips, it's interesting.
It's a really great feeling, huh?
It's really good. I gotta tell you the truth. Yeah. Ha. Okay, so moving forward. Don't rub your eyes when you eat hot wings, and don't touch your lips when you're using Vicsav. Words of wisdom. Gotta help you. So, moving forward there. You would see that this tree is twisted and split. And as he's walking towards it, it looks like he is going to walk into that big opening in the tree, is almost as if it's some kind of passageway. Okay? I don't know if you want to roll to see if you've ever seen anything like this done before, like a history check or an arcana check. Go ahead and tell me and roll it, and I'll describe this as surprised as Darius would be by it.
Either way, it's a 20.
Okay. You have heard of this, but you've never seen it. And he is doing a pass-through plants type thing. And mind you, I keep a lot of these things based on D&D spells, but when I'm narrating, I'm not worrying about nitpicking on exactly how far it can work and how big and how long it stays open and shit like this. I'm more focused on telling the story and using that spell as a reference for this. So for folks that want to watch this and get caught up in technical parts of it, you're missing the point.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it's Dimension Door, It's however big it needs to be, but it's not the size, it's the motion in the dimension door that matters.
Yes. And I think it's a pass via plants or something like that. It's a pretty high level spell where you can actually go into a tree and come out of another tree in a different place.
A druid thing.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the flavor I'm going with here. I know it's a D&D spell. I've never had a high level druid, and I don't know for sure. But we're going to go with it because I love it. So as he's walking forward, he takes the staff up and he looks up to the sky for just a minute. And as soon as the clouds seem to part just a little bit and that moon seems to come down, he says a few words in that very dark, gravelly kind of tongue that he has. And as he says these words, some of the vines seem to recede from around the side of the tree. Some have been growing up from the embankment, and you see a dark green glow with almost yellow fireflies seem to slowly kind of fade out from the opening inside this tree and buzz around. And as they do, they fill the air in like a 10-foot cube all around the entrance. They're just kind of lightly going through the air. He walks in towards that light, and he looks over at you, and he kind of gives you a nod. And you see him duck down, and as he walks in, his shoulders are so large, it rubs some of the bark off the tree. And as it shakes, some of that rain falls down on you. You know how if a smart ass is always walking ahead of you, and they'll smack a tree branch, and if you're the guy behind him, you get all that remnant water on the leaves that falls on you and shit? It actually has that effect accidentally. And as he's nudging his way in there, it's tight. He hits that tree, and a bunch of water that's residing on the leaves of the tree kind of falls down and gets on you a little bit. It's kind of a comical moment to break the tension. And he makes his way in there and seems to disappear inside of the tree. What is it that Darius is doing?
I would like to also stride through the tree. It's tree stride, by the way.
Cool, thank you. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah, so I'd imagine it's one of those things where, you know, it's kind of like, should I follow? And like he would kind of like touch the place in which he's going and see if he can follow suit.
When you go through, you'll notice that these little light orbs and stuff seem to have a life of their own. You don't know if they're an insect, if they're some kind of small kind of fairy, if there's some kind of life form that's intelligent or not, but they seem to move and glide around you, and as you walk towards them, they seem to move out of the way, almost like a school of fish in water. Okay? And as you go through that green haze of energy that gets darker into the central part of the tree, and as you go through there, you feel a gust of stale air come from wherever this tree is leading on the other side, and you smell brimstone. You smell similar smells that you picked up when you were fighting those Ozaman in that trial. You're getting ready to go to the right place here. Okay? As you step through, it's much windier here. And when you look around, I'll do my best to describe this, but this is a pretty spectacular thing. You're not sure which island you're on still. There is a medium rain coming down where you're currently at. The Ozaman stands there, wincing with his eyes, because the rain seems to be coming in sideways and fast as the wind seems to whip hard through this area. And when you take it in, it looks like a meteorite had hit a part of the jungle ages ago, and it's just now starting to grow back and regain itself from that. It looks like something flew in and hit this and decimated this. It's like you're in the bottom of what seems to be like a canyon of dark rock, gray scale rock and onyx and different kinds of dark rocks, and there's different trees that have started to grow back up and foliage has started to recover it, but it's vast. I'm talking like 200 to 300 yards circular. And you seem to be in the low end part of several different mountains, like you're in the cavity of a tooth here. Okay? And there's waterfalls that are running in between several of the mountains off in the distance. Long waterfalls that seem to be dropping off, and as you look down, you're standing on the outer rim of a large crater into the surface of this island. Roll me a perception check.
That's a 9.
Total?
Yeah.
Okay. You would notice that there are several makeshift bridges and huts and things built together in what seems to be some kind of primitive like scaffolding that clings to the rims of this deep hole that is in here, and it is like 100 yards wide. It is a big crater. Okay? And you can see movement and you can hear different sounds now that we've arrived. You hear, you hear all these different noises kind of echo up through there. People are aware that we're back. And you get this sense, and the smell of that brimstone is very strong and potent coming from down in this area. It seems like they've moved in and tried to make a makeshift home out of this place with what they've had. Okay? Now, I'll let you ask a few questions.
So the brimstone is the same smell that we smelled when the corrupt
Excuse me.
creature got close to us, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So like I imagine like as soon as I'm kind of looking at that and I'm smelling that, does the Ozuman did he smell like that as well?
The one that's with you?
Yeah.
No, not so much. It seems like when you're away from this for a little bit, it seems to have clung to the corrupted one that you were battling, the one that had the horns.
Yeah, so the difference is it seemed like that he emitted it versus the Ozuman that I'm with maybe had a slight smell. Like when you smell smoke on someone versus smell smoke someone.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
it.
So why do you live in the space that I assume the corruption's coming from? Why not move away from it?
He looks at you just for a moment. And he reaches over. It's almost you think he's going to touch you. But he actually is trying to reach out and move something that's past you. And because you rolled that 9, this is going to be a really nice play on that, Corey. It's pretty nice. When he reaches past you and you step to the side a little bit, or would you in this instance? It seems like he's reaching past you and needs you to move aside just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would do it defensively. Like,
As you do, and I could see that, he stands up a pike that has fallen over from the heavy winds that are down inside of this place. And as he does, he stands it up and you see the remains of a slain Vasilian stuck on this thing, almost like Vlad the Impaler style. And he stands up and he just looks at you and he takes it and he grabs it on with a couple of the arms and he shoves it back down on the ground and he holds it there. And he looks at you and he says, "They fear this place. That is why it is safe. That is the only reason why." That's all he has to say about it. And as you notice that, you will see that there are several of these other ones now that you've recognized this. There are warnings and stuff in some of the bare spots that lead to this crater. And as you look up at the horizon line, you see a couple of these pikes. Some are fallen over. Some are standing up tall. Some have like some kind of long, riddled, like not like a flag, but almost like a banner hanging off of them. Some makeshift primitive shit flapping in the winds. There are hundreds of these pikes that are left up and around here and stuff like that, warning for those creatures to stay out of this place. And that's what you discern from that. Now, if that answers your question and is good for you, it's fine. If it is not, you're more than welcome to continue.
so you fear the Vasilian, or do they outnumber you?
He looks at you offended when you suggest that he would fear something. He's kind of kind of sniffs a little bit and looks at you and takes his hands off of the pike and takes a few steps down there and stops and turns back around. And he says, Logran doesn't even fear death. And you would know his name is Logren. 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 And he says after that, he doesn't say anything else after that. You would get a sense that it has to be the numbers thing. These things don't seem to be fearful of things that would be their mortal end. That's the best you could discern from that. And he took a little bit of offense to the whole, do we fear things? You are reminded abruptly that although he is able to talk common, these are still primitive pride animals at their core. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, the gist of what Darius is trying to do is judge, like, with that. Like, so if they're primitive, they don't fear anything, they'll fight to the death. So he knows that these creatures in that battle, what to expect from them. Versus should he have to worry that they're getting their asses handed to him and the Ozumen are going to run away and save their own hide type of
You get
vibe.
the sense that they wouldn't run, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from the battle and from his reaction there, even for an older one and stuff like that, I mean, I wouldn't even have you roll anything to kind of get that sense of these creatures.
Yeah. So I think at that point, like seeing that he, offended him, like he'd kind of keep his tongue to himself for a little bit and just kind of proactively look around, counting how many there are, seeing if he can see, like, does it look like the corrupted are being intermingled with the non-corrupted? Does it look like the corruption is rampant versus like are only few of them corrupt? Basically, he's trying to get an idea of what this corruption is, what it's doing, and how effective it's doing it.
Okay. So, before we dive into that a little further, is it okay if we take a 10-minute break, guys? Is everybody good for that? Yeah. I'm going to go try to clean the pipes. Whew. This cold is kicking my ass, guys. Let me go ahead and get ready to let me pause a couple things here real quick, and then we'll do our first break. Just a second. Let me go to this and pause recording and go here. All right, and we're going to take a break, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, and we're back. Cool. Oh, I just tried to go blow my nose. Failed. I just need to get a plunger on my face. And just, something needs to happen, man. Oh, goodness. But regardless, we got another hour of this here, and we'll get through it and stuff. And hopefully I'll be feeling better by next week. So we're taking a detour from Corey's progression into the habitat in the area that the Ozumen are calling home. And we're going to go back to the group. Now, I don't want to drag this out any more than it needs to be drug out. Okay, it's a short rest is what you guys are going to be able to get here. Now, talk to me a little bit about short rest and long rest. Because I have in my head, I'm thinking 2 to 4 hours is a short and 6 to 8 is a long. Is that roughly what we're looking at here, folks, or how does it work?
Pretty close.
I think it's just one. If it's 1 hour, it has to be up to 1 hour is a short rest.
Okay.
And then long rest typically is 8 hours.
Okay.
Unless you're an elf.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are not going to be able to hit the 8 hours mark if you're wanting to leave under the veil of darkness. So, Danny, since you're the one that came up with this idea and everyone is pretty much on board with it, we're going to say it's about 9 o'clock now. As the sun is starting to sink in this place and going down, we'll say like 8:30-ish. What time are you thinking that you want to get everybody headed that direction?
Probably like 4 a.m.
Okay. 9, 10, 11, 12. That's going to be close. If you get everybody up at 4, I'll give you a long rest. But that's not going to get them going till 5. So then we need to talk about how far the trek is from where you're at to the temple, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. I don't really have it on a map. I can't tell you exactly where that is versus everything. So we're going to make this a decision of. Let's see here. Let me do a. Let me see how I want to do this. We're going to say it's going to take 2 hours worth of a march to get to the water temple of Yoda from where we are currently at.
We're not going to make it if we leave at 4, then it'll be sunrise at 6.
Yeah. So they can get everyone can get a short rest, but that's going to be about it.
Hey, Brian, what time zone is this place?
I don't know. Are you literally in game suggesting that we cross over a time zone?
Well, I'm just
So
saying.
the sun goes up later, dude.
6 a.m. in the wintertime is a whole lot different than 6
This has
a.m.
got
in
to be the
summertime.
first
I'm
time
just
this
saying.
shit has ever happened in D&D. On a live stream, no less. Holy cow. No, I mean, because of all the preparations and things, you know what? People have been laying around and kind of going through the art of not attacking and going through respite and having conversations. But when you are trying to get a short rest, you are turned off for at least an hour, period. And when you're trying to get a long rest, you are turned off for 8 hours.
Well,
There is no way this group is going to be turned off for 8 hours. So Danny will be able to get a long rest. The rest of you will only be able to get a short one. So make those adjustments to your character sheets and your hit points and stuff however you need to. Okay? Oh, goodness. Is everybody...
What's the recovery on that point then? Since it's not a full recovery.
How bad a shape were you in? Well, I'd just go half.
Oh, Merc was tapped. Merc and Brahmas are almost to 0 MP and getting real
Yeah,
bad
but
on the
you-
HP side.
Just go half.
does that count as rest when he's actually inside fighting on the inside?
It depends. Not for him, no. For Brahmas, yes.
So he would have his rest because he was a statue for hours out there. Him and Silon was inside. So
The construct itself has repaired itself, yeah. Merc, however, and that Merc's the problem. Because him and Silverman were taking non-lethal damage because because Brahmas was getting smacked around. So Merc is the real issue here, not Brahmas.
Because
Yes.
Siluan was pretty much asleep all of last session during the planning, did she get a long rest?
Yeah. Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
I
I've
think,
got to say yes to that. Yeah.
Because like we started out the session and then she was pretty much like peace, and then
Yeah.
just went to bed.
Yeah.
All right.
So we can do that. That's fine. So Colby, how bad a shape were you in when you went to bed, bud?
I don't think I was in very bad shape.
Okay.
I don't think I really took a hit and a beating in any of the last encounters.
Okay. And then Corey, when we get back to you, just if you are able to get in a short rest or something while you're amongst these folks in here at some point, make sure to role play that out so I can give you those benefits, okay? All right. So, moving on.
Oh, let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we did the tree stride, which means we got 12 minutes. We're at the place. We're at his place.
Correct.
But are they, wanting to wait all night? So would it be a long rest, or are they getting out there super duper early?
Danny and them?
No, because we're going, like, me and Monkey Man are going out to set up the battlefield, right?
Yeah, well, you and the shaman are going to inform them of that because that's something that you discussed back at the hunting lodge. No one there knows what's going on yet. All they know is that we passed the battle test
Mm-hmm.
in the show of strength, and they are going to rise up with us and help march on it. The details of that, the majority of the Ozamen have no idea. It's just you and the shaman.
So we're going to the
Ulran.
Ozaman to tell them, yo, we're about to go to battle, and then we're gonna go to the battlefield, probably meet the other party there. is what
More than
you're saying.
likely, it's however
Okay.
you choose to lay it out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, because I would have been telling them like our goal is to get there as soon as possible because we want to set the the traps. We want to set up traps and stuff.
Right.
But if they're like, hey, we need to rest, then Darius would rest.
Okay. So we'll get to that here in just a minute. Once we get these guys squared away, we'll jump back to that. So, short rest.
Ryan.
Yeah.
A long rest is at least 6 hours of sleep and 2 hours of downtime, eating, talking, whatever. It's at least 6 hours of sleep. And
Really?
And a short rest is 1 hour of just chilling.
Okay, if that's the case, it's just long rest for everybody. Okay, which would be, and then Corey's will be to determine on how it goes when we get back to them. So go ahead and take note of that. Long rest for everybody. Okay? Okay. So, moving forward, the long rest happens throughout the night. Jeremy, roll me a perception check for Merc.
And that 20, baby. For
And that
23.
20. Okay. By rules, which is good, it's in your favor this time. There's not even so much as a peep of wilderness creatures that Brahmas would be able to pick up on that side of things. Okay? With the rules that I got, it is a very quiet and still night. It's almost as if the forest is taking a break from all the chaos that's went on with the storming and the raining and shit for the last couple days. There are certain creatures and whatnot and certain birds that risk getting out and drying off a little bit, but there's nothing substantial of note throughout the long rest. Okay? As Merc is doing his thing. As morning approaches, okay, we wanted to go ahead and say that Silouan went inside after she was talking to Rowdy, and we were going to say that Valdera and Bastille had a conversation with you, and we're trying to get you caught up to everything that was going to be going forward. If you were going to be on the outside, you were going to be on the inside. And Bastille, if you would, ask her about what she thinks Brahmas might do, and just give me a little bit of role play into that conversation, and then we'll move on, okay? Bella, feel free to take how much time you want here, because I can move fast through this, or we can really enjoy whatever you guys want to do here. It's really whatever. It's all good. It's all part of the game. So Bastille, I'll start you off, and I'll be Valdera will be like your hype woman, and I'll just say flavorful shit as you go through, but just kind of describe to Bella the basics of what you go over, and anything else extra you want to add.
Okay, and this is before we go to sleep, correct? Or
Yes,
after?
absolutely. Well, everyone else is getting ready to crash, and then she comes in last minute. When everyone's like, "Oh, shut the door!" It's that kind of shit.
So,
Hi.
have a nice day in Hotel de Brahmas.
Yeah. I feel better for sure.
Do you think Merc will go inside with us, or do you think he's going to want to battle outside? Because we could use him inside.
not entirely sure. I mean, I don't know the full. I mean, you guys caught me up the best you could, but for I know that there's the whole thing of the Seraphim in there, right?
That should be enough to pique his interest.
I would think so. I mean, I can't speak for him, but I mean, if you have another one of Brahma's just chilling and hanging out,
It's not another one of him. It's a true seraphim.
yeah. That's wild. That's crazy. I would think, though, I don't know. I wouldn't think that he would get scared off by it. I don't think he's that type.
In the morning, we'll need you to. First Light will need you to convince him because
Then unmute.
Valdera would interject at this moment. And she would look over to you and locking eyes with Silouan. She would say, and you plan to stay with him
Yes.
throughout all this?
Oh, without a doubt.
She looks a little bit disappointed. And she's playing at it a little bit. It'd have been nice to see how you could have wielded that lance of yours with all those different layers and stuff like that. I thought a female warrior in the making would jump at the opportunity, so to speak. But if you feel that Merc needs a babysitter, I guess that's your call.
I don't think babysitter. It's just, I don't know.
She looks at you with her mouth kind of open, sarcastically, just a little bit. She goes, "It's just what exactly?"
He's been on his own for a while. I mean, he's been with you guys, but he's been shouldering a lot of stuff on his own. And I got tuned into some of that over the past few days. And
Okay.
I don't want that to happen anymore. If I can help it, I could be saying this, and then when he wakes up in the morning, he could tell me to shoo and, help outside, which I'm fine with doing. But, I feel like he's the type of person to take on more burden than is his share.
She gives you a look. She's wanting to see how strongly. She wants to see if her poke at you made you get a little bit prideful. Because she's impressed that she was able to poke at you a little bit and you stuck to your guns
Hmm.
and did the right thing. So I just want to do a little bit of a check here.
Sure.
She's abrasive. That's how she is. So it's so with bonuses, that's a 19.
Mhm.
Okay. And this was going to be a persuasion.
Mhm.
Okay, I want you to roll versus that. And what is the opposite of persuasion, everyone?
Well, it depends. If you're trying to see if someone's doing it, then it'd be an insight. But if you're trying to stop them, it'd be a deception.
Okay, go ahead and roll an insight versus this. See what you get.
Yep, not that great. Let's see. Said insight?
Uh-huh.
That's like a 4.
Okay, so that plays really well to this moment. So what that tells me as a DM, I'm not going to take the words away from you. You play your character how you want to play her, and that's awesome, right? So what that tells me is she rolled that 19. She was being very convincing, and what she said was very easy to bite the bait on. And she knows it had an effect on you. It struck that nerve in you a little bit, but even despite that, and it being as a parent from a 4 to a 19, you said the thing that you know that you feel you truly need to do. You didn't give in to the temptation of that. See, now, not every time is there a competition of one versus the other where you have to go along with them. It also shows the mental struggle in the conversation, right? I think this is a good representation of that. So, she feels like she unnerved you a little bit and made her point made, but she's impressed that you stuck to your guns despite your instincts. Okay? She kind of sarcastically sighs and walks back over to the corner, and then she gets back into her lantern light and goes back to resting. The last word she would say is, in or out. With a wicked grin across her face, she goes, I'm sure we'll all see our fair share of action. Sleep well.
I don't imagine the inside will be a walk in the park either, so.
Nice. She closes her eyes on that note. Anything else, Kill Tusk? Anything you're doing before we call it and we wake up? You have painted and you are completed with your stuff for the end of the night, and you put your paints away. You have your stuff. You know what you're doing. We'll let that be. Okay. Next morning arrives. Danny, you're going to be up ahead of them because you were only taking a short deal because of your elfness. Okay. So as you're up in the morning, and I always imagine this is the dad getting up to make breakfast for the ungrateful kids. You know, you're walking around, need to brush your teeth, you know, everything is laying around and shit. People are snoring. Valdaria is definitely a snorer. You know, you're seeing all these things. What is it you're doing for that little bit of time in the morning to get prepared while everybody else is still sleeping? And roll me a stealth check to see how quiet you are before we get going.
28.
28?
Yep. I have
Yeah, you're a fucking ghost, Danny. Danny McGuffey rolls, people. I'm telling you. All right, so tell me what you're doing. Are you painting obscene shit on people, or are you tying shoelaces? What are you doing here, buddy? Let's talk.
So the first thing he does is he inspects all of his gear when he gets up, looks at his armor, make sure, you know, nothing's loose on it, that everything is tied the way he does to keep it quiet. The strings on the silk on his daggers that he wants put on there, silk strings, you remember. When Doorbox stole his daggers, he checks all of that and kind of gazes around the room, looking at everybody with dark vision and just kind of looking to see where everybody's at and how dead to the world they are.
You would hear the loud cooing sound of the axe beak resting, and as you are looking around the room as quiet as you were, you see Loki's one eye is wide open, staring right at you, but not doing anything, not licking its lips. It's almost scary. It's almost like when you look at a dog that you're not sure if it'll bite you or not. It's just sitting back at their side of the room, just kind of staring at you. You know, it's that kind of feeling in your gut. But the way it's laying down with its body next to the axe beak for warmth and just kind of watching you, you get the sense these things are amazing predators. Not anything sees you with that kind of roll. And he's just looking right at you, just kind of just following you, just watching you as you're going around here, not making a peep. Okay?
An insight check with that.
Yeah.
It being reptilian. Insight.
What do you want to discern from the pet, sir?
It'd be a 16 total.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, those being lizard men, does that make me think they might be a little more perceptive after that?
If set up for it, yes. With just that low a number, you know that they are short-term thinkers. Their ability to assess things that are going on in the moment is very, very acute. But they are not long game thinkers. I mean, if that thing saw a squirrel outside the window right now, that would be the new goal. But they are short-term assassins. And I will reference this really, really quick for a fun fact. I was watching an episode of something, and gorillas were in a tank, and they were given treats through a door that opened up in front of them, okay? And what they had to do was there was a certain amount of human symbols or something like that in front of them, and they would flash the images on the screen, and when they were able to put them in the order of which they were asked on a touchscreen, they were given treats. Well, one day they were doing this, and that image flashed up on the screen for a fraction of a second. Maybe a second. I'm talking several different pieces. And the electricity had went off. There was a flash or glitch. And they noticed in the recording that that gorilla was sitting there going like this. Over and over and over again. Looking up, getting angry, and wanting food. Right? In that fraction of a second, it memorized everything that was on that screen and was typing in that order over and over again, demanding that food come out of there. And they said that led to a major study, and they saw that the short-term ability to assess the room, like that Jason Bourne second, where he's like seeing the fly on the window and all the shit like that animals in the wild have that ability in surplus of what we naturally do. And this is along the same kind of lines. The more you know.
You
I thought you guys would get it.
Gorilla in a tank, and that is not what I thought was coming up.
Oh dear God! No. No, but I thought that was really interesting. I hope I got that right. But that was really fun to watch that shit. But so, absolutely, that's what you gathered, Danny.
That the first person he wakes is going to be Valdera.
Okay. As you do, she looks up, and her eyes open up with her eyes looking right at you. Right? And she looks around for a minute, and she kind of takes a deep breath, and she straightens up. That's what it feels like to be sober in the morning. She kind of looks around and looks up and looks at that lantern, and she kind of gives it some kind of silent nod as if it's a person. She reaches up and licks her fingers, reaches in there and turns the lantern off, takes it and collects it. And as she's doing that, oh, nice. Flat 16 on stealth, so she's not making that much noise. She's doing okay. She seems to be getting her stuff ready and prepared. And she looks at you and she says, I'll be outside. Listen. Before we do this. If this works, Bastille, things are going to be different for us back at the city. You realize that, right?
Rich.
I mean, but she looks around and she looks at you. She goes, just don't do anything fucking stupid. Because this is just... And she swallows her pride a little bit. She looks around and she goes, this is just one instance of this. There'll be other gigs. But if they don't have us around, if they don't have you, it doesn't matter. You get what I'm saying?
I'm coming out of there.
And if I do my job right, you'll be stepping over fucking bones when you do.
And if they tell you I'm not there, you'll find me in No Jill. Or, sorry, you'll find me in...
New Gemdar. She looks at you for a minute, but then she gets an idea and she knows what you're talking about. She gives you a nod. She goes, I forgot that. Have you been tempted to use it already?
Not at all.
I'd be careful who you let know. about that.
You're the only one here that knows it.
I don't know shit. She grins and turns around and makes her way outside. Okay? That's as soft as she's going to be. You know what I mean?
He
So,
would go, he
huh?
nudges Coma awake so that she can get everybody else up, and then as he's going out, he would probably tap Sullivan on the shoulder and then step on outside with Valdera.
Okay. As you do, you would see Baraxel is outside sitting underneath the tree looking at Brahmas with the hood up. Okay? And as you and Valdera head out there, he stirs and looks over at you and stands up abruptly. His war claws bracketed to his back, strapped in an X formation, with the claws hanging down off of his hips. He looks over at you and he says, is he coming with us?
Hopefully inside the temple. Bass speaking in that quiet, almost whisper that he usually speaks in anyway.
There are many things to discuss before we get there. I'm not the guide that scions of the past have had. I don't have the experience. I don't have the and he's having a hard time finding the words. I haven't lived a long enough life. And he looks you up and down. He kind of looks at your boots and looks at your hands. And he goes, we should speak about things we could possibly find. I was young when I took Karsu's mother to the temple. There are things I would do differently this time. You understand?
You'll be a great help in there knowing the temple. And Brahmas will be able to understand some symbols. And then he takes a deep breath and he goes, I can read the runes.
Well, there will be no shortage of that. I must prepare. And he stands up and gives you a nod. And he walks back into the room. Now, you nodded who again? And let's deal with that on the inside real quick, please.
He basically he got Shakoma up, and then he tapped on his way out. He actually would have tapped Silhouette on the shoulder to get her moving, but he would have stepped on so she
Okay.
could move.
Silhouette, I'll give you a moment. As you get up, you are somewhat stiff. You are refreshed. And I would like for you to do me a charisma saving throw, please.
Aye.
Let me know what you get.
Right?
Yep, D20 plus your charisma modifier plus your proficiency bonus. That grin's telling me, I don't know what that's telling me. What'd you do?
I rolled a 3 again. So
You need some-
that
you-
is, it's been 3, 13, and 17 was ones that it's deciding on hanging out
Okay.
today.
So Danny, get her we'll need to talk about address. You need to mail her some of your dice. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's all good. So what was your total, ma'am?
Let's see, modifier plus proficiency bonus.
Yes.
You said? So I think that's just a 10.
A 10. Okay. When you start getting up and stuff, Rursi, the cleric, the beautiful woman we've discussed that had the false arm that was discovered by Bastille and stuff like that, is looking at you with a very motherly look. And she says to you, it's a little bit personal, it's a little bit abrupt, Silhouette, but maybe that's just the way these people come across because of who they are. But she looks at you and her eyes don't blink. And she looks at you mystically for a minute and she goes, "Do you always have bad dreams when you sleep, child?"
I think she may have paused a bit because I think it may have caught her by surprise a little bit that she did kind of drift off
Yeah.
in the sense of she had just sort of slept pretty well kind of inside of her room. And I think typically when she does sleep, I think I had established previously that she would seek out higher ground.
Uh-huh.
So I think maybe like chilling by the fire, she kind of, it's like one of those sort of like naps where it's like you weren't expecting to take a nap. So I think it's like sort of like, oh, I don't really remember, to be honest.
She comes over and she sits down beside you. You can tell that she's aching a little bit. And she just sits on the floor beside you for a minute before you get up. And she looks over at it. She goes, "There were times throughout the night that when the fire grew or would pop and crack, it affected you. So Shakoma and I stoked the flames. Once they went down, it seemed to ease you. Have you
That's
been
new.
have you been harmed by the flames recently?"
I think that she's, of course, now thinking of the hellscape that she was hanging out in.
Exactly, yes, ma'am.
But she's not gonna be like, "Oh, I took a fun little day trip to a hellscape." So
Oh, what the hell? I was fighting. It was cool. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
it's like,
Your
I've
hesitation tells her what she needs to know. Hold on, insight. Natural 17. You're like, well, go ahead. She's already like smiling, like, okay, you know what I mean. She's already the hesitation tells her.
I wouldn't say harmed. Well, I mean a little bit harmed. I've had new experiences with fire, and then I think she pauses and she's like, "That doesn't sound right either." So she's kind of like,
That's funny.
"It's been a lot of new stuff going on."
She says to you, "Stay close to Baraxel and Shakoma. You'll be fine. We'll get through this."
I know. And I think she says it with a confidence that she hasn't had like in a minute.
Good deal. Good deal. With that, where are you headed? Now that you pop up.
Outside to check in with Brahmas and Stretcher Wing.
Okay. So you're getting ready to go outside, stretch your wing. You're going to be waking up Brahmas and having that conversation. Danny is going through and getting his stuff ready and whatnot. Kill Tusk, what are you doing once you've woken up? Where are you headed? What's the first things you're getting into?
He would check his bow to make sure it is still working in order for at least especially because of the latest overdraw shots.
Yeah.
And then he would make sure Loki is well fitted for the oncoming battle.
Okay.
And I think that would be it.
Okay. Loki seems nervous. When you take him outside and you're sounding him up and putting stuff on him and flipping the scales of his armor right side, like blinds that have been flipped the wrong way, and you're kind of tending to him and stuff, he looks at you, stares at you more than usual. He's not all over the place looking around, observing stuff. He's staring more at you than around you than what you're used to. It's almost as if he can sense the severity of what you're getting ready to take a part of. You know what I mean? Shakoma is stepping back up bravely. Braxel is going back into a place where he doesn't have the fondest memories of. It was tough for him. You don't know that the Scion is ready to take this on, but she needs to be, right? There's so many things, and that's wearing on you, Kill Tusk. And when something wears on you, it affects your beast. Okay? Is there anything you like to do to play to that, or you'd like to say to Loki in calming words just for a role-play moment, or do you want to move on?
Ghost could probably tell Loki, yes, this is a decisive battle, but as long as we fight together, Loki, I know it would all be okay.
As you say that, he kind of shows his teeth a little bit and butts into you a little bit with the side of his head underneath your arm, and he's snuggling to you, but he's doing it kind of romping around, romping play, and he's glad to hear that you have a little bit of fight in your voice. It's kind of he's it is work. Do an animal handling check for me just for the hell of it. I'm curious what you roll. And with that, role play, do it with advantage, please. I appreciate that.
I had to read that first. Read my own dice for a second.
Right on.
16.
16 total. Okay. For that, your spirits have raised too, because sometimes reminding other people what they need to do also reminds yourself. I would like to do something interesting. I would like for you to give Loki a inspiration, 1 point of it, that he can use when the time comes. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So with that, the band's getting back together. I'd like to do a moment here where we talk with Silouan, talking to Merc. Jeremy's not had a lot of chance to do many things in this tonight. We'll do that a little bit, then we'll probably conclude and take off next time. So, Silouan, you see everyone outside getting prepared. Bastille is out by Bromus, so isn't... oh my God, Baraxel. So many names. And as you walk out and you stride towards Bromus, this construct, Valdera kind of slaps at the two, kind of like hushes him, and stands back and is waiting to see what you do to bring him out of this. So, Merc, you're inside. You're noticing there's conversations going on outside. You could be like, boo. I mean, you could be a dick, right? But what do you want to do when you see Silouan starting to walk from your rear, coming around outside the hunting lodge towards
That's
you?
what I was going to ask. So, right there towards the tail end of Bast and Braxel's conversation.
Yes.
Imagine him being able to be fully focused all the time.
Yep.
Would he have been able to use about 10 minutes at this point to cast Fine Steed?
Yes. Because I don't mind rewinding things because he's a very unique character. So if you want to do that...
By the time Silouan was walking up is when she would hear him speaking in Celestial, and about that time is when I'm just going to say like lightning strikes the ground or something, and there's his steel warhorse.
Okay. Kill Tusk, you see this. Oh! Right? It's so awesome. Let's just bring lightning down, Jeremy, and fuck up all the natives. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, you figure you're Celestial, what have you.
You're just so modest. I love it. So,
Bromus is ready for war. He's
right, I get you,
ready
man.
for all of this.
So, as you do that, did you give the steed a name?
We did, and I believe.
I hate to put you on the spot there. It's all good, but you try to keep that shit.
I want to say it was not Ragnar.
I think it was something like that.
I think that was it.
Ragnar?
I think so.
I'll give you the ability to change that a little bit if you need to, but I think that was pretty close to it. So as you summon that down, and that steed shows up from a pile of from a circular form of lightning charged energy that comes down a streak, pierces through the clouds. Describe to everybody once again what this warhorse looks like in its size.
So it's obviously large enough for Ramus to ride on,
Yep.
but it is basically all steel, and then underneath it's got like a celestial fire.
Rolling in it, yeah, like an engine. That's cool. Yep, and we say it was like there was a Final Fantasy summon that was Odin, and didn't it look kind of like the mechanical summon of that? Wasn't that like what we looked up? I know you put pictures of it up there somewhere. It was really cool looking.
Kinda. I'll find the picture again and I'll throw it back in chat.
Yeah, please do sometime. I'll actually put that on Facebook later and look at that. But it was really cool. So as you summon that steed forth, it comes up and marches towards the tree, and as it goes in towards you, its head is almost into the low-lying branches. It knocks quite a bit of rain off of those leaves, and it gets down on its front two knees and puts its head down as bits of steam and things come out of some of the joints of the creature. You can hear the turning of gears and the fire starting to dimmen inside the creature as it's going into a resting mode, ready for someone to climb upon it. Okay? In that moment, Silwyn, what are you doing?
Did I see Braxel where he was all night? Or had he already gotten up?
If you want to, I will say that maybe once throughout the night you were startled because of your nightmares, and you would have took a step outside to get a little bit of air, and you would have seen him out there camped out by him staring at the construct. Yeah.
Okay. And has she ever seen the steed before?
I think, yeah, Jeremy, you summoned it once before, right?
It was prior to her getting the shit blasted out of her head.
Roll a history check of disadvantage.
Okay.
I love that. I love that.
Love the description prior to the
Yeah.
shit blasted
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
he like did it as we were like going deep into the island.
Yep.
I unsummoned it right as we were getting on the boat full of shit and fish.
That's right. Yeah. Shit and fish. I like it. Welcome to
Right.
Brian Shit and Fish. Yeah, go ahead.
That's just a 9.
No. It's fascinating. And it's just, you stare somewhat frustrated because just as soon as you think you start to understand a lot about what's going on with this guy, there's more every time without missing a beat. It's like a horse now. Sure. Okay. Sure. Yeah, that would have made things simpler. And you can't help but think back to all the times it would have been nice to know that. And you hope that you did.
Is she close enough when it knocks down some of the rain from the tree?
Sure.
Okay, so what I'm pretty much thinking is she kind of begins to wander up, and then she's like beginning to say like, "Did you have a nice staring contest with Braxel all night?" Because she knows that it's like he can see through, and it's like you would have seen him all night. It's not like he closes his eyes.
Right. Yeah.
And I think as she's sort of commenting that, there's like this like, it's like, oh my god, like, holy shit, like what?
Yeah.
And
I'd
then-
love to imagine the fact Braxel probably didn't even blink.
Yeah. You know, I'll just.
By the way, horse's name is Harthorn. Ragnus was the general.
Okay, what was the name of the horse?
Harthorn.
Hawthorne? I like that. And no, he did not blink. By the way, when that happened, it's all good.
So he just looks over like, okay, back there.
Yeah, right. So
And I think like, you know, she's like, oh my god, and then of course like it comes raining down, so she gets partially drenched, so she has to like shake off like the water a bit from her hair and her wing. She's like,
yeah,
this-
right.
new?
And with that, Valdera nudges to Bastille and to Braxel to walk away and leave you two there to have a conversation. And Valdera gives you a knowing look, Silwyn, insinuating you need to ask him. So she would usher and hopefully have the other ones walk away. Danny, would Bastille follow her lead on this?
Uh,
I'll give you an opportunity. I'm not trying to railroad you, sir. I just want to know.
he probably just nods the Valdera and kind of stands waiting to see how things go. He kind of stands off far enough he can hear a little bit of it, but he's stretching with his own. So he goes far enough away that he can eavesdrop and see how it's going.
Yeah.
But he's over there looking like he's stretching and limbering up, which
Yeah.
will
If
probably
she insights checks you, she knows, yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Can Silo an insight check?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do it. Danny, roll deception.
Oh, well, it's against that then.
It's against a Danny roll, so you know you're in deep shit. Yeah.
That was.
No, I don't have that much for deception.
Don't
Oh,
you
wait.
lie to us.
I'm proficient in charisma now. I forgot about that.
Oh, wow. That's great.
16.
16. Come on, Bella.
Well, actually, I rolled a 16, so insight plus 1, so 17.
17! 17 gets it. You're the best around. I'm gonna have a bring it. I love it. Okay, so
So she sees him like wander off, and she's like,
he's like, yep, yep, gotta, oh, big fight, yep. As he's doing all this, he's kind of like, yep, got it. Oh, it's a neck thing. Yeah, oh, got it. Okay. Oh, yeah. So you know he's eavesdropping. He ain't lying to nobody. It's okay.
so
Go
I think
ahead.
she had just said to Promise, like, is this a new friend? As they were sort of walking away, and as she notices Bess, like, very obviously to her, eavesdropping.
Oh yeah, I gotta go. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Jeremy.
This is only the second time I've brought him around.
Elf yoga.
Yeah, I like it. Listen, I'm sorry. It's getting off rails. You two have a conversation, decide what you want to do, and we're just here to listen. Go ahead.
I think she's like, friendly or not?
And with that, she'll see Brahmas pull Hawthorne's reins towards him, and he'll hop up on him, which makes the whole a very towering, mighty scene. He's a friend.
I think she may. You certainly have a presence. I can't lie to you on that one. I think she kind of, much like the rowdy, I think she kind of offers out her hand a bit as she's beginning the conversation. Is this animal handling?
It recognizes you as an ally. So
With advantage, yes.
Okay. See, animal handling is wisdom, so that is a 15.
It doesn't move to your touch. Its eye opens up and takes you in and focuses on you, but it is very militant. It is not the compassionate rowdy. It is there to serve Brahmas. And you are reminded by the cold touch of this thing that is the case. I mean, right? I mean, that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as I hate that, but it's also kind of a neat moment. You know, you're like, oh, well, fuck you. You know,
I think it's
like
more
that.
kind of like,
Yeah.
all right, I guess. So,
Yeah.
we have a temple to tackle, and
Name of the episode: A Temple to Tackle. God, you guys are brilliant. A Temple to Tackle.
temple to tackle. So what are your thoughts on this whole
Wow.
spiel?
now, has Brahmas heard, like what's going on in the temple or why it needs to be looked into? Like, has he been privy to that information?
Well, if you pains in the asses wouldn't have done your thing and stayed in the same room, I would know that, Jeremy. Let's go ahead and say that before we were trying to fill time and you went in on your venture and stuff. Have you been out and talked to the group while they were inside of that cabin? Were you in there part of a conversation at all?
If I recall, he was, and there was the brief mention of like the
I
whole
thought there
ceremony.
was.
Yeah.
I was thinking they mentioned something during the or right before or right after the proving battle too.
Yeah. And I remember Danny saying some things to you about it. Like he was telling you, he's like, hey, they found this. They say there's this there. So we can also say that during your downtime, you've been researching that kind of shit inside there about is there more of this? Is there something to these rumors? Is this is what about the Crescent Cradle? What about the Terrachua? You know, which is their word for Tarask. Uh, you know,
Given his intimate knowledge of Seraphim anyway,
yeah. I mean, you
that'd be
have,
something.
yeah. How many hundreds of years? Right. Roll a investigation check for me, and I'll give you some insight as to what you did in your downtime, sir.
Investigation ain't great. That's 10. So average.
Okay. It's strange that this is like third world shit. This is the birthplace of life. This is the cradle for a reason, you know. And as much as you would have liked to have found things written, there are things written about things that you personally know and people you've been around because it's a manifestation of your own mind, right? But there's also some ancient histories and ideologies that you find inside of Brahmas that speak to the things that angels and avians put into this ages ago. The Crescent Cradle isn't even so much as mentioned, let alone that there would be more. You know about what the seraphims were made for. You know about, you get an idea that there was a countless army of them that was to be filled, and so they could conclude their lives in solidarity to not corrupt the populace, but nothing about one being left behind. No exit strategy as to what happens if one angel doesn't follow by the rules. You know, all these things that now you can't help but ponder all the time, Merc. There's just nothing here. Some pages need to be written. I'll give you that.
So, with that, he's looking at her. Given that there's the chance that there's another me, another Brahmas, another Seraphim, I have to look at this temple.
So we're going inside then, right? And then I think he probably knows her well enough that there is a slight hesitation around the we part.
Nice.
Like,
Question mark?
I think she's trying to feign confidence, like, yeah, no, we're going inside, but there's that like going in. Yeah, there's like the I'm coming along, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm Ron Burgundy? Yeah. Go ahead,
I'm
Jerry.
certainly going in. You are your own. I will not force you to go in. Thus far, I've asked you to do nothing.
Well,
Only
in that case,
what you feel skilled enough to handle.
in that case, then I'm going in. Because Ignatius is going to lose his mind if it turns out that there is kind of something else down there. So I kind of have to find out myself if I'm going to document it.
There are a lot of things Ignatius is going to lose his mind over.
That's fair.
True.
That's fair.
So I need to, of course, document it for research and, archivist purposes. Plus, it'll give me a chance to try fighting out in a different space, I think. Without this, and I think she kind of points up at the sky.
Okay.
So it'll be a fun experiment, I suppose.
I will do my best to protect you, but do not
and-
put research above your own safety.
And I will do my best to protect you too, so then you don't put others' safety above your own. So, give and
Touche.
take. And then I think she's like, maybe looks over his shoulder. He's coming inside, Bast. To kind of acknowledge that she has seen through his yoga stretch routine.
That's funny. Yeah, okay, cool. Bass,
And
your
then-
reaction, please. Valdera's in the distance. She's like, you're right.
I just love the idea that
reaches
he's
down
trying
like
like a complicated yoga pose and he's like really struggling at it.
Yeah.
Just to pure determination.
as flexible as Bast is, when she says that, he reaches down, touches his toes, and then he jumps up and does a backflip.
Okay. Nice. All right.
And I think
Acrobatics?
she may
Yep.
Okay.
pause too. Just kind of looking up. Do you think on this trek of ours that I could navigate through the treetops?
No. Bast actually answers that no.
Have a little bit of experience of getting too high up, don't you, buddy?
And actually, when he says that, he would actually, just kind of internally, see if Eros is all right. If he made it.
Okay.
We haven't actually heard from him.
How would you like to check that?
The way he calls him, he would just, Eros, are you there?
There's nothing there. And you don't know how to interpret that, but you get a pit in your stomach. You would see Silwyn possibly looking at you. So do you let that emotion come across your face, or what do you do?
I'll make a composure check and see, because he generally
I like it.
rolls a natural 1. So yeah, it comes right across his face.
A sadness comes over top of Danny, and you have found new companionship in this avian as well. It's linked to your past. It is the avian, the Griffin steed of your father, Ribden.
Mm.
And it usually answers his call. And Danny is at a loss for words. What are you doing?
I think she was kind of having this idea in her head of like, oh, I can vault between the treetops and it'd be a good way to get a good aerial. I think she's kind of more like she was having fun thinking about the logistics of it. And then I
Yeah.
think as she sees this sort of energy shift, she's like kind of like, understood.
It's interesting because she is still young at heart, and you are all about that. And it's interesting for these little things to unfortunately pull you back in. You're very resistant, and I like that about Silwyn. But I also like the idea that every once in a while there's something that's like, oh shit. It's a nice contrast. So yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, and he goes from the goofy stretching and playing to, once again, you just see him checking things left and right. Those that have been with him long enough know that he's checking the places that he stashes things, weapons.
Valdera looks at you with whispered word and looks at you and goes, nothing?
Nothing. It's a celestial beast, though. I mean, it's
Yeah, but
maybe he's just an elemental form.
right. Yeah. And
And she can tell he's trying to convince himself more than he is.
yeah. And she's right there with you too. She's trying to, yeah. And she just kind of walks off. With that, I would like to go ahead and cut to Corey for just a few moments and we'll wrap it up here, okay, guys? I gotta get the old nose. I'm telling you, dude, I'm hanging in by a thread. But this is really fun. I'm enjoying this. We're getting some good shit here. Corey. At this moment, after you've had that conversation with Logren, Logren, the shaman Ozaman, he makes it sound like, time is of the essence. He took out one part that you said a little bit personally, and I've described to you what this place actually looks like. It's very ominous here. You can hear the sound start of moving parts and things waking up. And you can hear a couple different grunts and shouts and commands echo up out of the center of this deep chasm. Um, the first thing I want to make a point of here is you can't imagine what would have made this land look like this. You've seen some neat shit. You've spun some tales of some amazing things. You just don't know quite how to grasp what the hell this is. But it just looks like whatever happened here not only decimated solid rock and land, but left this big crater that is somewhat to the shape of a circle, a large circle. And you can't imagine that anyone, unless they were just forced to, would even try to call this a place to explore. And I know that's kind of in the back of your mind anyway, but I just wanted to drive home that point that you are kind of at a loss as to how something like this could happen. Okay? He is headed down. There are several different entrance ways from the very top rim of this thing that lead with stairs that are cut into the side of the actual stone as it goes down. What's tricky about them is the handrails are very iffy, if anything, made out of bamboo and different vines tied together. And these things, although they're large of 4 arms, you see, you would catch little glimpses of the shadows of things swinging from side to side. The way they traverse this interworking thing, and to describe it in layman terms, you ever played the game where there's all the straws that are stuck through and there's marbles on top? And you have to pull out the straw and you have to make sure all the marbles don't fall down. And that inner working, when you look down as you're walking down into this place, if you would so choose, that's what these land bridges and these huts that are sitting in there would resemble. It's eerie how much faith they have in these structures. And it's desperate. Would you want to follow him, Darius, into this? Was there more things to be said, or what is your play here, sir? I'll let you take it.
Well, I mean, the easiest thing to progress the story is Darius is a guest, right? So he's not gonna step out of bounds. He's not gonna just be like, all right, well, that guy's leaving. Let me go over here. Alarm! Time to stop game, guys. He's not gonna. He can speak the language of them with casting a spell, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, he doesn't know the culture, right? So
Right.
already seeing the comments he's made and knowing he's made a slightly negative impact, he's not going to want to push that even more. So he'd follow him as much as possible. But at some point, while he's looking at stuff, when the time is right for him to call out about the corruption, like maybe when we pass by, I'm not sure how you envision this corruption piece, but I'm assuming if the corruption is driving some of these things to, either death or maybe madness, that maybe if it's madness, maybe there's a cage or something with one of them locked up that's at that breaking point, or maybe there's a hospital vibe of ones that are about to if it's drives them to death.
I'll give you something to chew on. Okay? So, is it safe to assume that you would be following the shaman
Yes.
down in here? Okay, as you guys are doing that, you would see several different Ozaman soldiers, white-furred, gray-furred, very rarely are they brown, dressed in makeshift garbs and things like that. And I want you to roll me a perception check, please.
You know my perception's bad. It's a
Yep.
7.
Okay. Every once in a while, you'll see something that one of them will be holding or carrying or using that looks a little bit too sophisticated for them to have done it. With that roll, you have to understand that they have pillaged things at some point. That they have taken things from other people. They have found a treasure trove somewhere. There are things amongst their attire that are not made by their hands. They are scavengers, and very resourceful ones at that, to have made this construct out of these things. There are large pieces of bone from dinosaurs that make some of the substructures of this large inner working of layers and staircases that go around the inside of this crevice. There are very interesting things, several very clever ways of using wood and vines and the way that they work and stuff. And every time you walk down through here and you pass one of these Ozaman and stuff like that, they stand back and they have a nod and they place all 4 of their hands on their chest in different places. And they give a look of acknowledgement to Logran. Okay? But as you start to get deeper and the light and stuff begins to get dimmer and the air begins to get a little bit more stale and the wind whistles a bit louder, you come into the pathway of a corrupted. It is marching its way up out of the darkness. And as it does, it doesn't stop and give the normal nod of respect that the other Ozaman soldiers do. If anything, it barely moves enough where you and the shaman can walk past it on the same platform. And it doesn't even hardly give you a glance at all. It just looks at Logran as it goes to walk past you broadly. Almost like walking by some kind of jackass at the mall that doesn't want to know, doesn't want to yield to you. So go ahead.
So I'd like to insight it. The gist I'm trying to understand is, is the corruption making the creatures kind of like they're splitting off, so to speak, where the corrupted are being their own race and the other ones, so they're not giving him respect? Or is it that they're just kind of like fucked up in a sense and their senses are diminished?
Roll your roll.
All right, so that would be 28.
Okay. With the 28, which is fucking... I mean, you're in Danny territory now.
I roll good on everything but perception, and perception's low.
It's all good. That's very good. With that, I will give you this. I'll give you a lot, actually, for that. Because that's a hell of a roll. Because that's what you've been coming down here for. You've been waiting to see one of these things in their own environment. And you want to see what's going on, right? As it's coming up through there, you would notice that as large as this creature is, all the creatures are fairly large in this place, right? These Ozaman are bulky things. It seems to be making the constructs around it yield way more than it should for its size. As if gravity itself is pulling at him from the deepest center of this place and is tethered to him somehow. As if, well, just as if he's tethered. And as he walks up through you all, you feel the push from him ever so slightly just emanating from around him. You would see that it would have one black onyx horn that would be almost metallic, it was so black. Looked like it's made of some kind of like black crystal with different shards deep within it that juts out of one side of his head as he holds that one side just a little bit lower as he stares forward. He looks down with eyes that seem to be somewhere else. And as he passes you both, he looks over, he looks at the shaman for just a minute. He glances at you for ever just a fraction of a second and looks back down. And this is the body language of this creature saying, we're not so sure you should be bringing him here. This is our burden to bear. As he lumbers past you, when he gets so many feet beyond, you feel the lightness of the construct give up. And almost enough where it startles you and you have to catch your feet. Almost like if you're on a boat dock and someone big jumps on there and you have to kind of steady yourself. It's that kind of sensation. I'll give you all that with what you rolled.
All right.
Interpret that how you will.
Well, the just really what I wanted to make sure of was one of three options. If they're splitting, so that means there's a faction war within that I'm going to have to worry about, which doesn't seem like that's the case.
You don't see symbolism that would depict that at all.
Yeah, the gist of what I'm picking up is that they are prideful creatures. They basically they know they have an issue to deal with, and they're dealing with it the best they can. So
yeah, that's fair.
So as the creature kind of walks by, and by the way, I imagine all my perception rolls are shit right now because the brimstone is. I mean, I'm a fucking wolf. My nose is like worse than yours.
That's bad, sir. That's bad right now. I'm not gonna lie. Go ahead.
I see that your people are very cautious at me being here, and I hope I'm not intruding, but I will tell you why I came, and I hope I can describe this in a sense that you can most effectively understand. I too have my own burden to bear. You've seen it. It's unnatural, and it's not something I want, but it's something I deal with, and something that more than I have been afflicted with, and I've made it a purpose of my life to fix my own affliction, my own curse. But I find that I'm missing a piece that I wonder if your people can help me find. I won't lie and say I wasn't going to use you and your people, but I will tell you that the test that I had came here to try to do, if it can even help me slightly help your people, and even if it doesn't help me progress my own wants, I feel that it's something I have to do. And I'll pull out my book, flip to the end where the page is ripped out.
He stops. He stopped the moment you said you've seen what I am. At that moment, he stopped and was staring at you as you finished your conversation at that point. And he doesn't move his expression through all that. He just stares at you as you explain this to him. He's deciphering what you're talking about. When you go to the book, he looks at it and he kind of looks up, this kind of an old wise person. He's kind of looking down over his nose and looking at your book as you open it up.
And so I would do that while also pulling out the lute and just kind of strum a little bit. I once had a tune that I felt could ease the savage beast within myself. And I wonder if it might help ease your people's pain as well.
He looks at the instrument, and his large hand slowly comes out towards you. Okay. And his finger is big enough where it covers like 3 strings at once. And he touches it. Just so slightly. And there's a little bit of chime sound to it where the strings are making friction with what he's doing. He touches it. And he stops and he kind of looks at you for a minute. He looks to the left and right. And he gives you a nod, a knowing nod. Um, go ahead.
So like, is the creature still like it's kind of right there?
Yeah,
Like the one, yeah,
he's waiting to see what happens.
yeah. So basically, I would kind of like place the tablet on the ground, flip to the lament, the part of the lament that's still there.
When he sees you struggle with that and you're putting the book on the ground and trying to look at it and stuff like that, his one arm grabs onto his staff and pushes up, and the two bottom arms reach up and hold the book, and he holds it open to you about chest level with the two bottom arms.
Like
As the other arm holds that staff, and he takes the other hand like this over his back, and he holds the wind chime silent on there because they're blowing.
I would like kind of like as he's doing it, I'm like kind of like looking at him funny. I guess having multiple arms would come in handy for a bard. And then I would play. So I think right now I know the one that calms down and the one that angers, right?
I believe you do.
But I don't know the other one. Yeah. I know the one because I know the one that calms me down because that's what I go play when I need to chillax.
Right.
So
The Ballad of Chillax.
So basically what I'd like to do is I'd like to play that one and see the interaction of like how that creature like acts upon that tune.
What's that song sound like? Are we talking like Metallica 1 played over, like, you know?
Yeah. Absolute darkness!
Yeah. Yeah, no, I imagine like the calm down.
Give us the feels, Corey. Give us the feels. Tell us about the song.
The calm down. Like I've been looking up. I will find the song that fits the two separate ones because I imagine the chill out one is more melody than anything.
Yeah. Some Enya.
I can't think of like the exact song.
Yeah, I bet. I guarantee it. Yep.
But I imagine like that's kind of what he's like tapping his foot to get a little bit of a percussion sound going.
Do that. Go ahead. Do me a performance check, please.
All right.
He's like, all right, Brian. Yes. Yeah, we're finally there. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So this is a 27.
Okay.
15 on the die.
Okay. So, as you begin to do this song, it's Song of Serenity, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. As you begin the melodic beginning of it, you find that Logran is taking a moment to follow you. And you would feel many eyes upon you as you look down and around into the hollows. Every once in a while that you take your eyes off the books and you're feeling your surroundings, you would hear scuffled and muffled movement. You would see the reflection of eyes, even from down deep inside of this place. And as you begin to go through the process of playing the song, and you start to open up into its origins, you're getting past the introduction, you're starting to unfold this song and do this. You would see Logran, he would start to very deep belly moan, somewhat in tune with what you're doing. Almost symbolic of like a monk chant in a way. And as he does this, his bottom lip is up and he's going along with what you're doing here. But as you do that with a 27.
Can I add something too real quick?
Absolutely.
I'd like to envision that, I mean, music is a universal language, but I like to envision that as I see him kind of getting into it, I'm like, oh wait, how do I get them to understand me? And I'd like to quickly cast tongues, so that way, as I'm singing the song, the words of the song, which are about calming the beast and about understanding yourself and understanding
Yes.
that while inside there's a demon, that you control it and you are able to harness its power, um, as long as you can understand it, right?
Oh wow.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and with that, then I begin to speak in or I begin to speak in common, but they understand what I'm saying
Okay.
as I'm singing that.
As you do that, just for the hell of it, roll me a spellcraft.
Oh.
Arcana is understanding, spellcraft is the actual acting of it. So that's going to be charisma for you. Because charisma is, you're a bard, it's intelligence for casting magic for you, correct? Or is it charisma?
It's charisma, yeah.
Okay, roll that,
It's
just a charisma check. Tell me what you get.
That's an 18.
Okay, that gives me a gauge of how effective it intertwined with what you were currently doing, and how successful it was. You know what I mean? It's a two thing. It's a two for by one to let that happen, but the rolls let it, so that's good. I'm glad. As you start to do this, Logren's eyes close, and they strain a little bit as if emotion is running through him, and you would see him take his hand off the wind chimes for just a moment, and he would take off the ring and clutch it in his fist. And you would see some of the strain release from him, some of the crow's eyes and stuff, as he would open his eyes up just very slightly. And you start to hear what sounds like percussion and more of these low, different tones of humming going along with your words, even more so now that they can understand what's going on. And it's being sung back in their language, almost like a deep monkin chant. And as they are doing this, the wind that swirls up from this crevice is filled with the beat of hundreds of different drums and things and bones being banged against bamboo railings and rods and structures that exist in this place. It is to the degree, that's a natural 18. It is awe-inspiring in its workings. You believe that you have done this and got your message across completely. But the effect of it has yet to remain, it remains to be seen. As you conclude, yeah, go ahead.
So not quite conclusion. I don't mean to push it longer, but
No, it's fine.
I'm like I strum a tune and then I flip to the other song.
Oh, do you? Do
'Cause
me
the
another.
gist is I'm getting the I'm spinning the song because I imagine the full-on lament is like being able to turn and control and together, right? Like that full that's the full-on the one he's searching for.
I'm with you.
So he devised he devised the one to bring out the beast within him and other things. Then he
Okay.
devised the one to calm the beast and other things, or vice versa. I can't remember which way it goes.
Right.
And
So which one are you ending with? What is its purpose, and tell me its intent?
Ending with, and I was just trying to look up the name of it. So ending with the one which causes my bloodlust to go up, as well as causes other lycanthropes to basically get enraged. The intent is, again, I'm doing all this while I'm paying attention to that motherfucking corrupt, whichever one looks the most corrupt. I'm paying attention to him to see how it affects him. Does the calming one seem to calming? Does the enraged one seem to make him enraged? And I want to do it just long enough to see, and then go back to the chill one if it starts to freak him out.
Okay, so when you interwork a piece of that in towards the end, correct? Roll me another performance check to see how you're able to manage this.
Ooh, watch this one be low. Rolling. It's a 17. I mean, I have a plus 12, so it can't really be that low.
No. Okay. Natural 5, right?
Yep, 5 on the
Okay.
die. Yeah.
Okay. As you work that in, you would hear certain pieces of the instrumentation that's coming up from the depths of this place get off beat and get lost a little bit and become heavier, and you would hear some different sounds of wah, her, some different sounds come from deep within. And it is the sound of people getting aggressive and getting carried away in the excitement of the moment. It's almost like when you watch, you get these visions in your head of this several wolves attacking a deer carcass. You get this sensation and this feeling from their sounds. You get the idea of people in a fury and a frenzy. And when you're doing this, it is giving them the reins to a horse that's out of control and making them smack the horse harder. That's the effect that you feel that it has when you do this, and it frightens you a little bit.
And I'll spin it back to the good one and kind of finish it off.
When you do and you open your eyes back and spin it back to the good one, it changes and the Ozaman's eyes are open and he is staring at you as if he is extraordinarily curious what it is you're playing at. He is dead looking into you now. No overly prideful kind of thing, no sorrowful, just looking at you stone cold. And on that note, we'll end.
I was just about to say, find out next time.
Yeah, right on. So, with all that, that's interesting. That was a really fun visual too, to think about how that would go down. I was like, yeah, that's neat. Some really cool stuff here, and I hope everyone felt that they got their chance to go through and do some game and stuff tonight like that. It's funny, just preparing to go somewhere sometimes makes a good game. And I don't know how I could have sped it up or done it any differently. I think it just worked out just fine the way it was. I have no problem with it, dude. So, does anyone else have anything they want to add real quick before we go ahead and shut down for tonight? Okay, it's 11 o'clock and my nose needs relief. So with that, once again, I'm Brian Kynes. Thanks, everybody. If you watch these, for tuning in, leave a comment. We appreciate it. We can always do better. And we'll see you next Sunday. Take care.